Chapter 1828. Dawn. Dawn. As soon as Chu Yang and Chen Burang collided, they separated in an instant. Both of them flew out from the dazzling light. Their feet stepped on the void as if they were stepping on the ground. Loud and rhythmic sounds erupted, and the void trembled incessantly. The two of them retreated almost 500 meters, and then stabbed into the void like a divine spear. Their auras were as sharp as a spear, soaring into the sky, extremely frightening. The previous collision seemed to be evenly matched, and the outcome was not clear. The two of them were really a typical example of not speaking more than half a sentence, and not even half a sentence. I will only use the strength of the first level of the Nirvana realm at most. Chen Burang finally spoke. His words revealed his own pride. But no one could hear the contempt in his words. His contempt for Chu Yang. Maybe Chen Burang is taking precautions, so he won't be embarrassed if he loses to shameless Chu, so he didn't go too far. Many people thought so. Up to you. Chu Yang didn't care much. Even if Chen Burang used the cultivation of the undead spirit realm, he was not afraid. However, according to the principle of keeping a low profile, he couldn't fight head-on and expose his background, so he would generally use other methods to deal with it. Chu Hang. This is not Chu Hang. The parrot seized the opportunity and immediately interrupted. Without Chu Hang's arrogance before the battle, this divine bird is not used to it. Among the crowd, many people unconsciously nodded in agreement. Chen Burang's face turned ugly. He was actually more afraid of Chu Yang's mouth. Chu Yang shrugged his shoulders and said in a very helpless manner, "Everyone, I've already turned over a new leaf. The world is too dangerous, and I have to keep a low profile. In the future, please call me low-profile Chu." As expected, these were not words that a normal person would say. People could only look down on him. If shameless Chu could keep a low profile, it wouldn't have rained that day, and his mother wouldn't have married. Fortunately, Chen Burang looked around and didn't see Shangguan Lan. He couldn't help but let out a long sigh of relief. If Chu Yang, this shameless thing, said to him, "Wife, someone bullied me," he would probably lose without a fight and run away like a rat. Is your pre-battle provocation over just like that? Chen Burang couldn't be bothered to watch Chu Yang's antics. No. Chu Yang immediately corrected him. Even if it's a provocation in battle. Didn't you just make a move? Very good. As Chen Burang spat out these three words, with a boom, an extremely dense mana surged out from his body. His long hair fluttered in the wind, and his eyebrows were like swords that seemed capable of piercing through the heavens. He had no one in his eyes, and he looked down on everything in the world. At this moment, Chen Burang's aura was extremely fierce. It was as if he was the noblest and most powerful person in the world. Everything in the world had to submit to him. Otherwise, everything would be destroyed. Everyone sensed this aura, and their hearts palpitated. That's. Long Xiaojuan's senses were sharp, and he had a certain understanding of Chen Burang. Therefore, when he sensed this aura, his pupils couldn't help but shrink. He roughly understood, but he was even more shocked. It turned out that the rumors were true. Chu Yang also felt a great pressure. The void was already squeezing him, as if because he was Chen Burang's enemy, he would not be tolerated by the heavens and must die. At this moment, he even felt that if Chen Burang were to rage, the entire world would collapse and everything would be destroyed. What a shocking aura, what shocking methods. This Chen Burang is indeed extraordinary. Chapter 1829. The barren village, Kui Xinhu, Sima Jian, and the others had placed too much weight on his shoulders. If he couldn't achieve this goal, he would never be free. Therefore, Chu Yang's current goal was to make the East Continent acknowledge the Eastern Wilderness. Anyone who stood in his way would be crushed, and Chen Burang was just a small obstacle. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The void around Chu Yang buzzed. Half-step Dharma power surged out of his body, and the void instantly disappeared under his pressure. Behind him, there was an explosion, and a world appeared. It seemed like the people of the Eastern Wilderness were smiling happily. At this moment, he thought of the people of the Eastern Wilderness in the East Continent, and of his own experiences in the East Continent. His eyes were filled with pity, anger, murderous intent, magnanimity, and pride. The light in his eyes was like a lighthouse in the darkness, allowing people in the endless darkness to see the light, find a direction, and find a coordinate in the darkness. Dawn. He stomped on the air, and the world shook. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed and returned to chaos. Everyone was shocked. Chen Burang was very shocking, and Chu Yang was not to be outdone. Chu Yang, today I'll let you have a taste of humiliation. Chen Burang was full of hatred. He straightened his palm like a pillar, but it was also like a knife. When he waved it, it was like a knife cutting through the sky. As expected. Seeing Chen Burang straighten his palm, Long Xiaojun immediately confirmed his guess. Woo woo woo, Chen Burang straightened his palm like a knife. Instantly, thin white lines floated out from his hand. They were as soft as willow catkins, but also like the roots of a tree. They pierced into the red void, as if they were inextricably linked to the world. Swoosh! Chen Burang took a step forward, and arrived in front of Chu Yang in an instant. Then, he waved his hand and chopped down. Billows of chaotic energy were emitted. It was as if this hand chop had cut open the heaven and earth, and the origin of chaos was surging out. He brought with him a torrent of energy and endless heavenly might as he chopped down. Chu Yang narrowed his eyes slightly. He realized that Chen Burang's connection with the heavens and earth was a little too close. It was as if he was an incarnation of the heavenly Tao, representing the will of the heavens and earth to kill him. He was confident that his connection with heaven and earth was not weaker than anyone else. He had a Yuanshan entrusted to the heavenly spirit world. Not to mention a saint, who below a saint could do it. In the soul fusion realm, after the fusion of the martial soul and the spirit, the 9 heavenly palaces appeared behind him, reaching the pinnacle. However, after Chen Burang unleashed his power once more, he once again felt the rejection of heaven and earth. It was as if the entire world had become Chen Burang's domain. His hands and feet were bound within it, as if he had fallen into a swamp. His battle prowess was greatly reduced. It was Chu Yang's first time encountering such a situation. What is so strange about Chen Burang? Who cares? If he is the heavens, then I will break the heavens. If he is the earth, then I will crush the earth. Chu Yang's will erupted. The pressure of heaven and earth disappeared once more. His heart was like a clear sky. Even if Chen Burang was the son of heaven, he was a citizen. If the son of heaven was not benevolent, then he could start an uprising. He did not use the sword of contradiction. He also chopped with his hand. This chop was like chopping at the head of the emperor. He wanted to kill the tyrant under his feet and establish a new world. This was in line with his current goal. He wanted the people of the Eastern Wilderness to turn over a new leaf in the Eastern continent. He wanted to destroy everything in the Eastern continent and establish a new order. This chop displayed the essence of the saber, the damage of the saber. Chu Yang could display the essence of the sword, the damage of the sword. Naturally, he could also display the essence of the saber. In his eyes, the sword was the saber, and the saber was the sword. Chapter 1830. Dang! Their hands and blades made contact, and it was as if divine weapons had collided. The sound of weapons colliding was extremely intense, and sparks flew in all directions, bursting forth with endless sparks. In an instant, the sky was like a meteor shower. It was beautiful and dazzling, but also extremely dangerous. Clang! Clang! Chu Yang and Chen Burang continued to exchange blows, colliding with one another. They were as fast as lightning, and it was too much for the eyes to take in. Every time they made a move, the two of them seemed to have sliced apart space, sliced apart time, and disrupted the heavens and earth. It was as if their battle not only determined the outcome of the two of them, but also who would become the master of this world. Bang! After a quick and violent collision, the two of them were both sent flying by the impact, facing each other in midair. You are indeed very strong. It's true that I can't beat you if I only use my peak 9th level Transcendence Realm cultivation. As soon as Chen Burang spoke, everyone was shocked. After such a shocking collision, everyone thought that Chu Yang and Chen Burang had already used their full strength. Who would have thought that Chen Burang was still holding back? Chu Yang didn't refute. Chen Burang was speaking the truth. He said, I think I've said it before. I'll give you 2 major realms. You can just go all out. Whoosh. The crowd was once again in an uproar. Chu Yang had not even used his full strength yet, but this caused the crowd to be shocked once again. Just how shocking were these 2 people? Just now, when the 2 of them fought, it felt like the world was in chaos, as if it was going to explode. Then I won't hold back. Chen Borang did not have the time to feel humiliated, because he did not have the ability to do so. Chu Yang was too shocking, and he had to be careful when dealing with him. A 9-level heavenly palace appeared above his head. Mana surged from it and entered his body. It was like he had a close connection with the 9-level heavenly palace and could use the power of the 9 heavens at any time. You don't have to be so courteous. Lan Lan is my fiancé, so I have to convince you. Rumble. Chu Yang did not rely on the heavens or the earth. He only relied on himself. His aura burst out. One of his eyes was like the sun, and the other was like the moon. His body was like a heaven and earth. The 3,650 pores on his body were like vortexes and black holes. They seemed to be crazily devouring the energy in the universe. The hair on his body was like tentacles that pierced into the chaos and absorbed the energy of the chaos. We'll talk after you've taken this punch. Chen Borang punched out. With a buzzing sound, a layer of light appeared in the air, enveloping his fist. Within the layer of light, majestic mountains and rivers could be seen, as if it was a real world. As he punched out, it was as if he was pushing an entire world forward. Nothing could stop him, nothing could stop him. Who could stop the power of an entire world? If this was the real world, there was no need to talk about its power. Without reaching the corresponding realm, no one would be able to resist it. Chu Yang did not even look. He slapped out with his palm. A loud buzzing sound immediately rang out. Chen Borang's 5 fingers were knocked away, but his palm blocked this punch. After that, his 5 fingers slashed down like 5 large blades and grabbed Chen Borang's fist. It was as if a heavenly scar appeared on his 5 fingers. He directly cut the light membrane into 5 pieces. This attack was like 5 blades slashing the heavens. Its power was shocking, and its sharpness was unstoppable. Chu Yang's 5 fingers cut through the layer of light and landed directly on Chen Borang's fist. Chapter 1831. Boom. Chen Borang threw out another punch with his other hand. It was just as powerful as the previous one. It looked like it was going to hit Chu Yang's face, but it was actually aimed at Chu Yang's wrist. Chu Yang had no choice but to let go of his grip. Chen Borang's fist regained its freedom, but it was in tatters. His flesh seemed to have been chopped into minced meat, and blood was gushing out of it. There was no sound in the world. Everyone was mesmerized by the fight, and their eyes were fixed on it. The fight between the 2 was not only earth-shattering, but also extremely thrilling. If one was not careful, he would definitely lose his life. Their attacks were too fierce. Chen Borang did not care about the injury on his hand. He pointed one hand to the sky and the other to the ground. His body was extremely straight, and his actions were extremely domineering. His magic power surged out and disappeared into the void. A huge sky pillar appeared and wrapped him in it. Then, his right hand went straight into the void, and he suddenly made a grabbing motion. Rip! At this moment, it was as if the sky was pulled apart. A huge pillar appeared. It was shrouded in clouds and fog, and its appearance could not be seen clearly. However, it supported the sky above and suppressed the sky below. It was like the foundation of a house, and the backbone of a person was like the backbone of a family. It was as if the existence of such a pillar separated heaven and earth. Heaven and earth existed because of it. Everything was due to it. Sky supporting pillar. Cries of surprise instantly burst forth, filled with disbelief. Sky supporting pillar, it's actually the sky supporting pillar. Does such a thing really exist? Is Chen Borang's martial soul the sky supporting pillar? The sky supporting pillar supports heaven and earth. If Chen Borang's martial soul is the sky supporting pillar, once he uses it, who can stop him? Sky supporting pillar, no wonder. At this time, Chu Yang also completely understood why Chen Borang had such a close connection with the heavens and earth. It was obviously related to this heaven supporting pillar. The sky-supporting pillar could be said to be the backbone of heaven and earth. It was directly related to the existence of heaven and earth, and its connection with heaven and earth was naturally incomparably close. Chen Burang's previous moves were all related to the sky-supporting pillar. Rise! Chen Burang roared. His fair hands grabbed the heaven-supporting pillar with great effort. Veins popped out on his face as his face turned completely red. When he grabbed the heaven-supporting pillar in his hand, there was a rumbling sound, and everyone felt as if the world was collapsing. The space there immediately became chaotic. Endless turbulence surged. The space was like a mirror that was about to shatter, and it even erupted into balls of misty and chaotic mist. You also want to prove yourself, prove that you're worthy of Lan Lan. That punch just now wasn't enough. If you can't take this attack of mine, then you can only accept your fate. With the heaven-supporting pillar in hand, Chen Burang's body didn't grow bigger, but at this moment, he seemed to be as tall as the sky. He became extremely powerful, as if he could destroy the world with a raise of his hand. The heaven-supporting pillar was swung up by him. The void there was like a sea, completely stirred up, forming an enormous void vortex. Rumble. When the pillar smashed down, the world was like a balloon, and half of it was blown apart. Such power was simply shocking. Everyone's faces turned pale, and the world changed color. If the pillar fell, no matter how amazing Chuyang was, he would probably be smashed into a meat patty, or even blown up into pieces, leaving nothing behind. However, in the face of Chen Burang's heaven-supporting pillar, he stood there without moving. He had no intention of dodging at all. From the way he looked, it was clear that he wanted to take this attack head-on. Is he crazy? Everyone instantly had the same thought. This attack should be dodged. How could he take it head-on? Chapter 1832. Rumble. The power of Optimus Prime had already spread to Chuyang's body. The clothes on his upper body seemed to have been torn to shreds by some kind of brute force, and were swept away by the wind. His upper body was not very strong, but also not very thin. It was shining with a faint soft light. The lines of his muscles were like the lines of the heavens. Even the heavens could not draw such lines. It was filled with an extreme sense of beauty and perfection. Chuyang watched the Optimus Prime fall. His eyes were incomparably calm, without any fluctuation. It was as if Mount Tai was collapsing in front of him, but his expression did not change. Flowers, birds, fishes, insects, the sun, the moon, the stars, the black and yellow of the heavens and the earth, the chaos of the universe and so on appeared in his palm. With a snap, he swung his arm out like a whip and met the heaven-supporting pillar head-on. If Chen Burang could swing the heaven-supporting pillar, why couldn't he catch the heaven-supporting pillar as well? There was no such logic. Bang! The Optimus Prime could not fall any further. No matter how long they waited, nothing changed. Shameless Chu could catch the Optimus Prime with his bare hands. Everyone present was stunned, as if they had already died at this moment. He could catch the Optimus Prime with his bare hands. Long Shaojuan's eyes were filled with extreme shock when he saw this scene. His hands could not help but tremble. Even the Optimus Prime can't do anything to him? Long Shaojun was not the only one who was shocked. Gong Sunlong, who was secretly observing everything, was staring at the scene in mid-air with his eyes narrowed. However, nothing had changed. He could clearly see Chen Burang's dazed expression. Boom! Oh my god, Shameless Chu could catch the Optimus Prime with his bare hands. How is this possible? After a short moment of silence, the shock that had not burst out earlier exploded at this moment. It was even more shocking. It was as if the whole world was roaring and the sound waves swept in all directions. Unbelievable, the Optimus Prime can support the heavens and the earth. How heavy is it? How could he catch it? Although the Optimus Prime is not real, Shameless Chu is only at 9th level Soul Fusion realm. How could he catch it? How strong is he? Strong, extremely strong. He's so strong that it's unimaginable. This Shameless Chu is so strong that it's terrifying. If he grows up, who can be his opponent? It's too terrifying. Perhaps when that day comes, even if the sky breaks and the earth sinks, he still won't die. The world seemed to have stopped at this moment. Chu Yang did not move. He maintained the posture of catching the sky-supporting pillar with his bare hands. That shocking posture. It was as though Chen Burang had been petrified. He stood there motionlessly, as though he was a sculpture on a pillar. Chu Yang wasn't surprised at all. His body had become a god, and it could be said that his body was a godhead. The godhead could form a world, a heaven and earth, and all living things. It could be said that it was no different from a heaven and earth. He had gathered the power of heaven and earth to resist the sky-supporting pillar, so how could he not be able to resist it? Although he had suffered a great impact, his strong physical body had withstood all the impact. Furthermore, the heaven-supporting pillar wasn't real, but Chu Yang's physical body could transform into a real world, evolving heaven and earth, creating all living things. I admit defeat. After a long time, Chen Burang finally spoke these 3 words. Along with his voice, when the sky-supporting pillar vanished, it meant that this battle was over. Chapter 1833. Young Master Chen, you haven't lost yet. How can you admit defeat? You haven't lost yet. Young Master Chen, you haven't lost yet. Use the Nirvana flame to burn him to ashes. That's right. Young Master Chen, use the Nirvana flame quickly. That shameless scum, didn't he say that he would defeat you by 2 realms? Use the Nirvana flame to teach him a lesson. Let's see if he dares to be so arrogant in the future. All of them were women who adored Chen Burang. They couldn't bear to see Chen Burang lose, and they couldn't accept this result. Many people's hearts skipped a beat when they heard this. Yeah, Chen Burang still has the Nirvana flame. Why didn't he use it and admit defeat? Idiot. Long Xiaojun glanced at these people and sneered in his heart. Even Chu Yang could catch the Nirvana flame with his bare hands. How could a mere Nirvana flame do anything to him? Of course, Long Xiaojun didn't explain. Chu Yang didn't explain either. Since you have lost, this is it. Disperse. He wasn't very proud. After all, he had this ability. He just wanted to hide it. In the world of the gods, ever since he entered that strange world with the initial volcano, he had thoroughly understood what it meant by there is always someone better than you. Unknowingly, he had changed quite a bit. Chen Burang was stunned. How could shameless Chu let him go so easily? What else do you want me to do? Humiliate you or beat you to death? Chu Yang wanted to kill Chen Burang, but Shangguan Lan would never allow it. Not only Chen Burang, but many people present were very surprised by Chu Yang's actions. Chu Yang had always been ruthless to his opponents. He wouldn't leave any leeway for his opponents. Chu Hang, this divine bird feels very strange to you. I'm not used to it. The parrot was also very surprised. It continued, Chu Hang, have you taken the wrong medicine recently? Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang couldn't help but nod their heads. If Chu Yang had treated them like this before, they definitely wouldn't have been Chu Yang's slaves. Therefore, they were very dissatisfied with Chu Yang's sudden soft-heartedness. I've said it before. The world is too dangerous. I'm starting to keep a low profile. Chu Yang passionately said, from today onwards, I will be a low-key person. I will chop wood and feed the horses. I have a house that faces the sea, where the flowers bloom in spring. Fuck. The parrot was even more puzzled. Chu Hang's shamelessness hadn't changed, and his overflowing talent hadn't changed either. However, everything else seemed to have changed. Could it be that this divine bird has really fallen behind and can't keep up with Chu Hang's rhythm? It began to doubt itself. People couldn't accept Chu Yang's low profile. Shameless Chu, are you really that low profile? Chu Yang returned to the parrot's side. Many people felt that the show had ended too quickly. They hadn't enjoyed themselves to the fullest. In fact, they felt as if something was missing. But then, they realized that this matter hadn't been blown out of proportion yet. In the past, according to Shameless Chu's style, it had to be a big matter. However, this time, he was being magnanimous and ended things hastily. However, no matter how puzzled people were, there would definitely be no change in the matter. Gradually, people's focus shifted back to the Six Academies Alliance tournament. The atmosphere became lively again, and people continued to talk about it. At the same time, More and more people arrived from behind. When Shangguan Lan arrived with Shangguan Mai and Hong Neo, it immediately caused a sensation. Chu Yang was secretly amazed by Shangguan Lan's charm. Ji Yinmeng's arrival was the same, and it also caused a sensation. Chapter 1834. Chu Yang was depressed, but he couldn't do anything about it. He could only say that he was loved by thousands of beauties. Of course, he was also amazed by the scale of this joint competition. There were already so many people in the Sky Academy alone. It was impossible to tell how many people there were. If all the 6 academies were added together, it would be even more unimaginable. After that, the little Zen master Fa Zhao, Mu Zizhen, and the others all arrived. The scene became even more lively, but they didn't see any holy disciples for a long time, so the crowd began to talk about them. Why aren't the holy disciples of the academy here yet? Maybe they're not with us, or they've already gone to the Zhongtian mountain range. It's hard to say. Holy disciples are holy disciples after all. They're different from us. While the discussion was at its peak, a figure streaked across the night sky from the direction of the Sky Academy like a shooting star and finally landed right above the crowd. This person was wearing a starry robe that was decorated with some unknown objects. They sparkled like stars in the night sky, and starlight shone from his body. When he arrived, people could clearly see that there were strands of starlight shining down from the sky and landing on him, making him stand out from the crowd. He looked extremely different, as if he was a celestial being who had descended to the mortal world. Other than that, this person didn't show any strange colors. His aura was also extremely restrained, as if he didn't have any cultivation. However, his appearance instantly caused a commotion in the crowd. 7-star child. It's the 7-star child. I've been waiting for so long, and finally, a holy disciple has come. He's no ordinary holy disciple. I've heard that the 7-star academy has tried to recruit him several times, but for some reason, the 7-star academy has refused to go to the Star Academy. I don't understand either. If the 7-star child goes to the Star Academy, he'll definitely be the focus of their training, especially after Bei Chunxing was killed by the Eastern Wilderness 002. Who knows the secret? The 7-star child's considerations aren't something we can understand. 7 stars. Chu Yang naturally paid close attention to 7-star child, so when 7-star child arrived, he couldn't help but observe him and immediately felt an extraordinary aura. That wasn't the aura of death, nor was it the aura of life. Instead, it was more like a kind of spiritual power. The most profound feeling he had was the difference between heaven and man. Chu Yang was still a mortal, but 7-star child had already transcended the mortal realm and ascended to a whole new life realm. Half-saint. Soon, Chu Yang understood. 7-star child's aura was clearly that of a half-saint. He was already one step into the ranks of saints. Is a saint already so amazing? For a moment, Chu Yang's heart sank. How could he compete with the holy disciples if they were so amazing? How much time and effort would it take to change the discrimination against the people of the Eastern Wilderness in the East Continent? Chu Yang realized that he had underestimated the people of the world. Even though he had made great progress after returning from the God's realm, it was still far from enough. Do I have to become a saint to suppress the East Continent? Chu Yang was slightly frustrated, and the heroic spirit in his heart almost disappeared. After all, 7-star child was only a holy disciple in the Sky Academy, and 7-star child wasn't the only holy disciple in the Sky Academy. The other 5 academies all had holy disciples, and a rough calculation showed that there were definitely many holy disciples, and he couldn't compete with any of them. Chapter 1835. The more he thought about it, the more serious his face became. Bei Xingchen had been killed by him, and in addition to Bei Xingchen, there was also Li Cangsheng. The Stardow Academy and the Myriad Elephant Academy would probably come looking for trouble with him during this competition. After all, he was the most likely suspect. Perhaps he was the Eastern Wilderness 002. The 6 Academies Alliance tournament this time might just be a nuisance to me. It'll be even more difficult for me to make a name for myself. I'm afraid the people of the East Continent will have even less hope. Chu Yang naturally didn't regret killing Bei Chunxing and Li Cangsheng, especially that bastard Beichunqing. He wasn't afraid of the Stardow Academy and the Myriad Elephant Academy's revenge either. It was just that it would be difficult to achieve his goal. If worse comes to worst, I'll turn the world upside down. Chu Yang had just made up his mind when he suddenly heard the sound of wind exploding from afar. When he looked over, he was surprised to see a purple streak of light rapidly approaching. The person hadn't arrived yet, but the essence energy in the world was already surging. To be more precise, it was surging with excitement as if it was welcoming the person who was about to arrive. Immediately, everyone was sucked in. The purple streak of light streaked through the air at an even faster speed. When the purple streak of light got closer, everyone was shocked to discover that the so-called purple streak of light was actually a dragon. A dragon that was completely purple in color. The purple dragon streaked through the air and arrived in the blink of an eye. It didn't need to cause such a huge commotion, but this dragon created such a huge commotion as if it was announcing the arrival of its master. A purple-robed young man stood on top of the purple dragon's enormous head with his hands clasped behind his back. He had a handsome face and seemed a little unruly and carefree. His devilish aura made him seem even more unrestrained. At first glance, one could tell that he was definitely not ordinary. After the purple-robed young man arrived, his gaze swept across the crowd. He glanced at the seven-star child in the end before immediately looking away. It was as if there was nothing worthy of his attention or concern, not even the seven-star child. However, the crowd reacted to his arrival, and the commotion and exclamations that erupted were even more intense than when the seven-star child had arrived. Long Shenzi, even Long Shenzi has appeared. Long Shenzi has always been elusive. It's really not easy to see him. I didn't expect to see him this time. Although Long Shenzi's ranking is not high among the holy disciples, his true strength is extremely terrifying. Isn't that obvious? Just look at that purple dragon and you'll understand. Even that purple dragon has the cultivation base of life and death realm and life realm. Dragon deity is even more unimaginable. Chu Yang's pupils involuntarily shrunk as he looked at Long Shenzi, who was hovering in mid-air. When he first entered the inner academy, he did not see Long Shenzi's name on the sky ranking. However, he never expected that Long Shenzi was also a semisage. Moreover, his aura was even more shocking than the seven-star child's. Only now do I know what crouching tigers and hidden dragons means. Chu Yang could not help but laugh bitterly in his heart. It was not that he was inferior to Long Shenzi and the seven-star child, but his cultivation base was too low. If he increased his cultivation base, Long Shenzi and the seven-star child would probably be at the same level. Unfortunately, his current cultivation base was still too low. As time passed, many holy disciples arrived. However, they were not as mysterious as Long Shenzi and the seven-star child. They were all hidden in the fog, and no one knew their identities. Some holy disciples had yet to show up. After an unknown period of time, the crowd was once again in an uproar. The Holy Master is here. The Holy Master actually came in person. I didn't expect that the Holy Master would personally lead the team this year. The crowd was very excited to see the Holy Master and several senior members of the Sky Academy coming in person. However, Chu Yang had to be more careful when he saw the Holy Master coming from afar. He could not help but feel uneasy. Chapter 1836. Everyone, please be quiet. The Sage Master was dressed in a scholarly robe and still looked like a modest gentleman, cultured and refined. He stroked his beard and lightly pressed down with his hand. The noisy crowd couldn't help but immediately quiet down, and their gazes couldn't help but all look towards him. There are some changes to the rules of the 6 Academies Alliance competition this time. Let me explain it to everyone. The Sage Master went straight to the point. As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd, which had just calmed down, instantly burst into an uproar. What? They actually want to change the rules before the start of the competition? Could it be that something big has happened? It's a little unusual. I keep feeling that something is wrong. It's indeed a little strange. Everything in the 6 Academies Alliance competition is jointly discussed by the 6 Academies. It's impossible for it to change just like that. Chu Yang's uneasy feeling became even stronger. The black-bellied him immediately thought of all kinds of schemes. He even suspected that everything was changed because of him. Could it be that the 6 academies have reached an agreement to jointly target me in this 6 academies alliance competition? This thought became even stronger. If the 6 academies suspected that he was Eastern Wilderness 002, the 6 academies might really target him based on what he had done in the 7 Wheels Demon region. Is it true or not? Chu Yang couldn't help but frown and worry. Whether it is or not, I have to be mentally prepared for the worst. At this stage, everything was his guess. For the time being, he could only wait and see. Everyone, listen to me first. The Sage Master spoke again, making everyone quiet down again. Then, he continued, the change in the rules this time takes into consideration that the difference in strength between the holy disciples and the inner courtyard disciples is too great. It's not appropriate to put the two at the same level for the assessment. Hearing this, the people became even quieter. They could accept this very much. If they were to compete with holy disciples like the 7 Stars Child and the Long Shenzi, it would be a great misfortune for them. Therefore, this time, the 6 academies will be divided into 2 parts. The holy disciples will be part of the assessment, and the other part will be for the majority of the students. There will be some changes in the rules. After a pause, the Sage Sovereign continued, most of you don't need to know about the holy disciples test, so I won't explain it further. Next, I will talk about the changes in the rules of the inner courtyard and the elite students test. Everyone immediately listened attentively. Chu Yang was also very concerned about the so-called rule change. It's actually very simple. The Sage Master did not beat around the bush. The inner courtyard and the elite courtyard students will receive a points token in this assessment. The basic points are 1,000. You can accumulate points during the process of heading to the martial arts practice field set up by the 6 academies United Grand Competition. It's more or less the same as the previous assessments. Boom. As soon as the Sage Master finished speaking, the crowd went into an uproar again. In that case, although there is no threat from the saints, won't we have to compete and kill each other? It's better not to make any changes. The holy disciples usually don't take us seriously. With such a change, won't the difficulty of the assessment increase? The Zhongtian mountain range itself is full of danger. In addition to the demonic beasts and other martial artists who don't belong to the 6 academies, the students of the 6 academies will also become opponents. Chapter 1837. Amidst the chaos, some agitated students immediately shouted, if I withdraw, I will most likely die. What good is this competition to me? I'm also withdrawing. I'm just here to join in the fun. I don't want to lose my life for nothing. That's right. There's no benefit, only danger. I'm also withdrawing from such a competition. In an instant, many students withdrew from the competition. Most of them were from the inner courtyard. Their strength was low, and such a competition rule was tantamount to making them the prey of the 6 great academies. They would be humiliated for no reason, and they might even be killed if they were not careful. Who would be willing to do that without any hope? Chu Yang was also relieved. If he was not strong enough, he would definitely withdraw. Such a rule encouraged students to compete with each other. In the competition, those who were weak were simply too pitiful. Seems like I'm overthinking. Just as this thought appeared, the Sage Master chuckled and said, everyone, don't be anxious. This is only a partial change. There are other changes that I haven't mentioned yet. First, in the competition, although you can snatch the points of your opponents, you can't kill them. Those who kill their opponents will have to pay with their lives. The joint inspection team of the 6 great academies will definitely not tolerate it. Such a rule instantly silenced everyone's protests. Also, the Sage Master continued, inner courtyard students, or elite students, in this competition, the top 3 will each receive a clone divine fruit. Clone divine fruit. This time, the crowd was in an uproar. It was many times more intense than the previous few times. This was because they were all shocked by the Sage Master's words. After hearing it, they could not believe it. The clone divine fruit was actually rewarded. Many people did not know the exact origin of the clone divine fruit, nor did they know where to find it or how to obtain it. However, they knew exactly what the clone divine fruit was used for. As the name implied, the clone divine fruit was a clone. After eating it, it would produce a clone of oneself. Its effects were heaven-defying and unimaginable. For the majority of the students, they had only heard of such a divine item. It was impossible for them to obtain it. Even geniuses would find it difficult to obtain such a divine fruit, let alone them. The most irresistible thing about the doppelganger divine fruit was that even after creating a doppelganger, one's divine soul would not be severed. Therefore, one's divine soul would not be weakened, and it would not affect one's cultivation in the future. It was just an extra doppelganger. As a result, how could they not be shocked? Many of their eyes began to shine after hearing about the divine fruit of cloning. They were clearly daydreaming. Sacred. Sacred. Teacher, are you telling the truth? When someone asked the sacred sovereign, the entire place immediately became quiet. Everyone was waiting for the sacred sovereign's answer. The sage master stroked his beard and smiled. Of course. Do you think I would use this to deceive everyone? The crowd was in an uproar again. Many people were so excited that they started shouting. Wealth comes from danger. No matter what, I have to participate in the 6 Academy's grand competition, the divine fruit of cloning. The Academy has already taken out such a divine item. What reason do you have not to participate? The assessment and the competition are indeed dangerous. However, if you do not go through hardships, how can you obtain the recognition of the Academy? How can you obtain the divine fruit of cloning? This is prepared for those who are ambitious. Chapter 1838. Of course, this is only for the inner courtyard and elite students. The holy disciple's reward is a saint embryo born from heaven and earth, a saint embryo. When Chu Yang heard this, he couldn't hear anything else. His mind was blown, a saint embryo. It was hard to imagine that the holy disciple's reward for the holy disciple's grand competition was a saint embryo. A saint embryo was similar to the doppelganger divine fruit, but a saint embryo was not something the doppelganger divine fruit could compare to. The so-called saint child was actually very simple. The heavens were the father, the earth was the mother, and it was a powerful and special life that was born from them. They were either born from strange stones, jade, wood, divine water, fire, or metal essence. For example, the 9 orifices stone man, 7 orifices jade man, green dragon wood man, Tai water man, and so on. Once they were born, not only were they very powerful, but they also had unlimited potential. A saint embryo would be a saint once it was born. It was equivalent to bestowing a saint, and this saint was one's doppelganger. Such a reward was too shocking. It was simply inconceivable. It wasn't just Chu Yang who was like this. After the saint sovereign spoke, everyone was suddenly stunned, causing the entire place to become deathly silent. There wasn't a single sound. Even Long Shenzi and 7-Star Child were stunned when they heard this. Roar. The purple dragon seemed to have sensed Long Shenzi's thoughts and suddenly let out a long roar. The dragon's roar immediately reverberated through the surroundings. 7-Star Child's starlight suddenly became dazzling and even dimmed as if night had fallen. In the void behind him, there were specks of stars twinkling. The two of them had revealed their inner hearts in an invisible manner. They were determined to obtain the saint-level sacred fetus. The rest of the holy disciples also found it hard to calm down. How could they not want a saint-level holy embryo? Those who didn't want it were probably fools. Seeing this scene, Chu Yang could already foresee that the competition between the holy disciples of the 6 great academies would be extremely fierce. He was also tempted by a saint embryo. If he obtained a saint embryo, he would have a powerful saint doppelganger. It would be just a matter of time before he suppressed the East continent. Unfortunately, it's only limited to holy disciples. Chu Yang's greed flared up again. When he realized this, he couldn't help but laugh at himself. Not to mention a saint-level holy fetus, even the divine doppelganger fruit would have to be fought to the death. In fact, Chu Yang could create 2 clones at this moment. In the myriad god world, among his 100 grotto heavens, the first 2 grotto heavens had already evolved into godheads. However, He felt that the godheads were not complete enough. At the very least, they did not integrate the aura of the heavenly spirit world into them. Therefore, this flaw was too big. After all, he would be staying in the heavenly spirit realm in the future. His avatar in the god's realm would be so obvious that he would be criticized by others. He might even be suspected of being a spy from the god's realm. I have to find a way to get the doppelganger divine fruit. Although the doppelganger created by the doppelganger divine fruit couldn't be compared to his own doppelganger, it could still increase his strength. Most importantly, the doppelganger divine fruit didn't cost much to create a doppelganger. At this time, the Sage Master spoke again. All of you, quiet down. I haven't finished yet. The inner courtyard and elite courtyard students have a chance to obtain the reward of a holy disciple. As long as you have the courage to compete with a holy disciple and win in the end, you will also receive the same reward. The crowd was in an uproar again, but it quickly calmed down. Competing with a holy disciple? Wasn't that a joke? If they could compete with a holy disciple, then they would be a holy disciple. Saying so was equivalent to not saying anything. However, the 6 great courtyards did place the opportunity there. If they didn't have the ability, what else could they say? 7-star child saw the crowd's reaction and couldn't help but snort coldly, instantly silencing everyone. Although Long Shenzi and the other holy disciples didn't say anything, their meaning was clear: don't be delusional. Chapter 1839. Well, that's about it. In the end, the Sage Master wrapped things up and said, at the teleportation point, each of you will receive your own identity medallion. Then, you may head to the Middle Sky Mountain Range. The Sage Master didn't say anything else. He left with the higher-ups of the Sky Academy and soon disappeared. I didn't expect that the rewards for the 6 Academies Alliance competition this time would be the divine fruit of cloning and the Saint Fetus. It's beyond my imagination. That's right. Who would have thought that the reward this time would be so amazing? However, I'm afraid we won't have a chance to get the divine fruit of cloning, let alone the Saint Fetus. These belong to the geniuses. We can only watch from the sidelines. Many people said so, but everyone could see the desire in their eyes. Who didn't want the divine fruit of cloning and the Saint Fetus of cloning? They might be able to get it. Chu Yang knew that the competition between the 6 academies would be intense when he saw that many people had already become excited. He also felt the same way. Therefore, he didn't say much. He brought the parrot and the others to meet up with Shangguan Lan. He got his waste token and went straight to the Zhongtian mountain range through the teleportation array. His greed became more and more uncontrollable during this process. Even if he knew it was like a moth flying into a flame, he would still rush over. Let's see who will be the hero this time. Chu Yang disappeared from the teleportation array with this mentality. There was no need to rush to the Zhongtian mountain range. Many people deliberately fell behind, such as Gong Sun Long. The divine fruit of cloning isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is the Saint Fetus. Gong Sun Long was also very eager to get the Saint Fetus. He thought for a while and said to himself, it seems that I can only rely on Chen Zi this time. He contacted Chen Zi and got a positive answer. He was even happier, and the smile on his face became brighter. He felt that his rise would be in this 6 Academies Alliance competition. However, someone suddenly came back to report. When he heard Chu Yang's name, the smile on his face disappeared. His face became extremely cold in an instant, as if summer had turned into winter in the blink of an eye. What are the reactions of the Star Combat Academy and the Myriad Elephant Academy? Gong Sun Long's voice was as cold as ice. Young Master Gong Sun, the Star Combat Academy and the Myriad Elephant Academy's reaction has been very calm. Generally speaking, they've already received the news. This person was already drenched in cold sweat. He spoke very carefully and even couldn't help but tremble slightly. They still don't believe that bastard is Eastern Wilderness 002, right? When Gong Sun Long spoke, his expression was filled with mockery. To him, this could not be any more obvious. Eastern Wilderness 002 was good at making lightning bolts. How could a wild dog like Chu Yang not be good at making lightning bolts? This wild dog not only used the Thunder Tribulation to threaten the Saint Master and the Sky Academy, but also forced Long Xiaojun to submit. In fact, there was one more thing that was even more shocking, and that was the heavenly transformation, which had triggered a heavenly transformation level lightning punishment. This was also the reason why Gong Sun Long had always been afraid of Chu Yang and did not dare to face Chu Yang head-on. Anyone who could survive a lightning punishment of this level would definitely be extremely terrifying. Of course, that was all Gong Sun Long had. He did not have enough evidence to prove that Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002. However, according to his intuition, Chu Yang was definitely Eastern Wilderness 002. This intuition had never been wrong. In many cases, it had played a crucial role. To be exact, his intuition had saved his life several times. Chapter 1840. Unfortunately, things didn't go smoothly. According to this humble one's feeling, those from the Thousand Elephant Courtyard indeed don't attach too much importance to this matter. They also seem to have prepared for it. I reckon that they will make trouble for that wild dog, but they won't put in too much effort. The person carefully voiced his opinion. Their focus should be on the divine fruit of doppelganger and the holy embryo. Even if Chu Yang is Eastern Wilderness 002, he'll definitely be put behind them. If it was Gong Sun Long would definitely do the same. However, the difference was that he believed that if this wild dog was East Baron 002, if he did not get rid of it, the divine fruit of doppelganger and the divine embryo would all fall into the wild dog's hands. In Gong Suanlong's opinion, Eastern Wilderness 002, which was also Chu Yang, was the biggest threat. Bunch of idiots. Gong Sun Long cursed before asking, what about the Star Battle Academy? The Star Battle Academy. According to my observations and secret investigations, they seem to have grasped a huge weakness of East Wasteland 002. They have a feeling that victory is within their grasp, so they are fearless. However, this little one is unable to confirm if this is the case. The Star Battle Academy had a hold on Chu Yang. Gong Sun Long couldn't help but feel puzzled. Chu Yang was a wild dog. What kind of hold could they have on a wild dog like him? This was especially true for the Star Battle Academy. A wild dog like Chu Yang was almost impossible for them to come into contact with. Could it be an outside move? In the end, Gong Sun Long still couldn't figure it out. He said, the Star Battle Academy and the Myriad Courtyard already know about this. They'll definitely have a conflict with the wild dog like Chu Yang. However, it seems like they'll continue to suffer. The person who came to report didn't dare to interrupt him. He only listened quietly. Continue to pay attention to the Star Battle Academy and the Myriad Courtyard's movement. Yes, young Master Gong Sun Long. After Gong Sun Long arranged everything, he went to the Culmination Mountain Range through the teleportation array. Although Chen Zi had helped him in secret, the key was still him. At the same time, the students from the Star Academy, Myriad Academy, Divine Firmament Academy, Sky Sword Academy, and Sky Demon Academy all made their way to the Culmination Mountain Range. Star Combat Academy. The huge square was filled with people. It was unknown how many there were, but the hubbub of voices seemed to have spread to the 9 heavens. In the center of the square, there was a tall and straight white-clothed youth. He was the focus of everyone's attention. Many young girls were looking at this white-clothed youth with infatuated expressions. The white-clothed young man had an elegant face and a warm and sunny smile on his face. He was cultured and refined, calm and collected. Every movement of his was very steady, so steady that it made people feel assured to leave everything to him, because he would definitely not mess it up. His movements were also very slow. Even his smile was very slow. His smile was like the process of a flower blooming, appearing bit by bit. He was not anxious at all. He was not anxious about anything. It was as if there was absolutely nothing in this world that could make him anxious. The white-clothed young man was the new star child of the Star Academy, Nangong Xing. Star child, didn't we reveal too much information to the person from the Sky Academy just now? A student beside him asked with a flattering smile. He did not need an answer, but he wanted to get closer to Nangong Xing. Therefore, he tried his best to talk about as much as possible. Obviously, This question was the most appropriate one. It doesn't matter, Nangongxing said with a smile. After all, they are from the Heaven and Earth Party of the Sky Academy. There is no harm in letting them know more. Perhaps they will cooperate better with us. That so-called Gong Sunlong is more anxious than us. Star Child, you are indeed far-sighted. The person immediately flattered and tried to find a topic to talk about. However, that Eastern Wilderness 002 is indeed impressive. Not only is he a Supreme Realm practitioner, but he is also a divine arts practitioner. His methods are astonishing, and he might even be the descendant of a supreme figure. Chapter 1841. Fang Hui, you don't have to worry about this. I already have a plan, Nangongxing said. Just do whatever I tell you to do. As long as you don't go against my orders, nothing will happen. Nangongxing then added, I'll say this first. If any of you dare to mess around and disobey my orders, don't blame me for being rude. His words revealed a certain confidence that came from a strategist who could determine victory from 1,000 miles away. This was definitely not a bluff. If he had the qualifications to say such words, then he naturally had the corresponding strength. Bei Chunxing was the previous star child of the Stardo Academy. Back then, Nangongxing was even more outstanding than Bei Chunxing. Many people had suggested that he compete with Bei Chunxing for the position of star child, but he had shook his head and said that there was no need. There was no need to compete for the position of star child, and it would naturally land in his hands. Because of this, Bei Chunxing had even said that he was arrogant and had come to provoke Nangongxing, but he had been easily defeated by Nangongxing. However, this matter had not spread far and wide, so very few people knew about it. Most importantly, Nangongxing's words had come true. There was no need for him to compete with Bei Chunxing because Bei Chunxing had been quickly killed by Eastern Wilderness 002 in the Seven Wheels Demon Realm, and Nangongxing had successfully become the new star child. No one dared to compete with him. From then on, everyone in the Stardo Academy was even more convinced of Nangongxing, and they were even more fearful of him. There was actually another matter, but this matter was related to the wild dog, and it had also been planned by Nangongxing. However, even fewer people knew about this matter, so Nangongxing would definitely use this matter to make an issue out of it. The person called Fang Hui smiled. Star Child, there's no need for you to specially instruct me on such matters. If anyone dares to disobey your orders, I, Fang Hui, will be the first to not let them off. The people around him could easily sense Fang Hui's smile. Their smiles froze for a moment, but they quickly recovered. Because of that, the bystanders were able to understand. Although Nangongxing appeared to be very gentle and amiable, his temperament and methods were extremely ruthless. Whenever he attacked, he would kill. His methods caused others to tremble in fear. If it wasn't for the fact that Bei Chunxing was killed by Eastern Wilderness 002, they would have thought that Nangongxing had used someone else to kill Bei Chunxing. How's the information about Chu Yang from the Sky Academy coming along? Star Child, the person from the Sky Academy has already explained it in detail. Immediately, the warm and sunny smile on Nangongxing's face disappeared. His face turned extremely cold, causing the people around him to feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. After a while, Nangongxing slowly said, "What did I say just now? If I tell you to do something, you have to do it, right? Star Child, forgive me." With a plop, Fang Hui and the others all knelt down. They were extremely terrified and had already started to tremble. Humph! Nangongxing snorted coldly. "Only this time. If there's a next time, don't blame me for being merciless." After that, he said, "What the people from the Sky Academy collected is what the Sky Academy collected. You didn't do it yourself or verify it. How can you be sure that what the person from the Sky Academy said is all true? There are many things that you have to see with your own eyes. Do you understand?" "Yes, Star Child. We'll go and collect it right away. It's too late. Let's talk about it when we arrive at the Zhongtian mountain range." Nangongxing refused. Then, he entered the transmission formation and headed for the Zhongtian mountain range. At the same time, in the Nature Academy, The person in charge of Chu Yang's matter was also the new son of all creations. Compared with Nangong Xing, this son of all creations was much uglier. To be exact, he was much uglier than ordinary people. His name also had the word Cho in it. He was called Li Cho. Chapter 1842. Originally, no one knew about Li Cho, nor had they ever heard of him. However, he had suddenly become the new all-creation child, so there were many people who wanted to challenge him. He accepted the challenges one by one and defeated everyone who thought he could become the new all-creation child. He even defeated a holy disciple, which instantly caused an uproar in the myriad court. Only after that did people slowly dig out Li Cho's origins. Fang Jing heard that he was a demon-level genius that the Myriad Academy had intentionally concealed. Because Li Shengsan was killed in the Seven Wheels demonic region, he had no choice but to stand out in the open. From then on, no one dared to question Li Cho, even if his appearance was ugly. Of course, that wasn't all. During one of his secluded cultivation, Li Cho had an epiphany and a shocking vision appeared. The figure of a supreme figure appeared, and it was said that he was the figure of the all-creation ruler. Li Cho had already obtained the Lord of all creation's recognition. Obviously, to be able to obtain the Lord of all creation's recognition, Li Cho's creation ability had to be extremely shocking. Even Li Shengsan couldn't compare to him, because even Li Shengsan hadn't obtained the Lord of all creation's recognition. Li Cho was also thinking about Chu Yang. Just as Gong Sunlong had thought, Li Cho didn't place Chu Yang's matter above the most pressing and urgent matters. There should be a clear distinction between priority and urgency. Even if Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002, what he needed to do now wasn't to kill Chu Yang and restore the Myriad Court's reputation. Moreover, this wasn't easy to do. Therefore, to Li Cho, the most important thing now was the divine clone fruit. Yes, that was right. He only wanted the divine clone fruit. He didn't even think about the so-called sacred fetus, because it was almost impossible to compete with the holy disciples of the 6 great academies for the sacred fetus. Li Cho would never place all his efforts on an illusory hope. To him, that was simply too stupid to be cured. If Chu Yang knew that Li Cho could be so calm in front of the sacred embryo, not moved in the slightest, he would definitely be filled with admiration. That was because he couldn't do it. He couldn't be as rational and clear-headed as Li Cho. At this moment, Li Cho was still very clear-headed. If that Chu Yang is Eastern Wilderness 002, then my main opponent this time will definitely be him. If that's the case, why did Brother Li casually dismiss the people from the Heaven and Earth Society from the Sky Court? The people around Li Cho were very close to him, as if they were his friends. Li Cho's arrogance was definitely not high. Only by disappointing them will they work harder. Li Cho could not help recalling the various things about Chu Yang that the person from the Heaven-Earth faction in the Sky Court had mentioned. He muttered to himself, a lightning tribulation that caused the heavens to change. How can he easily clear such a lightning tribulation? He is truly unfathomable. Before seeing Chu Yang and not knowing what Chu Yang looked like, Li Cho had already raised Chu Yang's danger level to the highest. Brother Li is right. If the Sky Court's Chu Yang is really Eastern Wilderness 002, then he is indeed not easy to deal with. If we're not careful, we might end up in the same situation. Li Cho nodded. That's right. If that Chu Yang uses the same trick and uses the lightning tribulation to intimidate everyone, then there's nothing we can do. Naturally, it was not just the Star Combat Academy and the Myriad Academy. They were preparing for the competition for the Divine Clone Fruit and the Sacred Embryo. The Divine Firmament Academy, the Sky Demon Academy, and the Sky Sword Academy were also doing the same. There were definitely many people from the 3 academies who were concerned about Chu Yang. For example, the Divine Firmament Academy's Su Yiling, the Sky Sword Academy's Feng Porlong, and the Sky Demon Academy's Jing Wuming. Because of Chu Yang, although the 6 Academies Alliance tournament had not officially begun, they could already smell the scent of a storm. Let me see how the 6 Academies Alliance tournament will end up. Who will be the worm and who will be the dragon in the 6 Academies Alliance tournament? Who will be the one who will rise and fall? Let's make the storm even fiercer. The three of them carried different emotions as they headed towards the Middle Sky Mountain Range. At the Middle Sky Mountain Range, the 6 academies were about to converge. It was destined to be a turbulent storm as heroes vied for supremacy. Chapter 1843. The stars moved and the heaven and earth changed. There was a sense of chaos. Chu Yang and the others were already incomparably familiar with this feeling. During the teleportation process, time and space would often be temporarily chaotic. Or rather, to the people being teleported, they would feel that time was chaotic. But this process would not take too long. In just an instant, the transmission was completely completed. Chu Yang and Shangguan Lan immediately appeared on a platform. In front of them was an endless mountain range, shrouded in fog. Many mountain ranges pierced into the clouds, like a heavenly sword. Some mountain ranges were very flat, but the area they occupied was extremely large. It seemed that they were not low originally, and were definitely not flat. It was just that they had flattened a vast ocean, which was why they were like this. Most of the mountain ranges were huge and majestic, making people feel small and insignificant. Is this the Middle Sky Mountain Range? It's really magnificent. Chu Yang couldn't help but exclaim. When he was in the eastern wilderness at the Coiling Dragon Martial Courtyard, he felt that the Coiling Dragon mountain range was big enough and amazing enough, but after seeing the mountain range here, everything was overturned. Compared to the mountain range in front of him, the mountain range in his memory could only be regarded as a small hill at most. There is always a mountain beyond a mountain. I just arrived at this moment. Did I completely understand this sentence? Chu Yang sighed and smiled bitterly. Bumpkin. Bumpkin turtle. Bumpkin bastard. Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang all spoke out in disdain. They were not afraid that Chu Yang would go berserk. Even if they were beaten, they would not hesitate. If they were given another chance, they would definitely do the same. There were definitely not many opportunities to despise Chu Hang. Now that there was one, how could they miss it? The parrot's eyes widened as it looked at the magnificent mountain range in front of it. It was speechless. However, when it heard that Xia Wanjin and the other two were disdainful of it, and were even willing to die for it, it immediately said, Cheetah Chu, it's not that this divine bird despises you. But, you're too inexperienced. You should increase your experience. Don't play shameless tricks all day long. Only when you see your own insignificance and inadequacies will you slack off. Surprisingly, Chu Yang did not fly into a rage. Instead, he spoke of his so-called philosophy of life. However, in less than half a second, everything changed. It seems that this marshal has decided to keep a low profile. This decision is indeed becoming more and more sensible. This marshal indeed has foresight. Waha! Brother goat, there is no sea here. Shangguan Lan could only roll her eyes. Lan, you're not interesting at all. Chu Yang immediately criticized, it's good that the sea is in my heart, but it's not as good as you being in my heart. That is a kind of yearning. Otherwise, if I face the sea all day long and the flowers bloom in spring, I will be bored. The constant sweet talk made Shangguan Lan blush, and Liu Yunpeng and the others had to continue to learn more about it. The light was dazzling. Just as Chu Yang and the others were talking and laughing, the light of the formation kept flashing. In just a moment, many people appeared around them. Men and women, handsome or ugly, beautiful or gorgeous, densely packed together, and uncountable. Furthermore, more and more people were being teleported over. The students of the 6 great academies were all gathered here. Then, they set off from here and went to the martial arts practice field that the 6 great academies had set up in advance. Chapter 1844. Let's go. By then, some people were already heading towards the culmination mountain range. With all the students from the 6 great campuses gathered there, it was easy for the big fish to eat the small fish. It could be said that many people had encountered danger as soon as they arrived, and might even have to return home. As more people arrived, more and more students gathered. Fortunately, the place was spacious enough to accommodate many of the students from the 6 great campuses. At the same time, the auras of the students from the 6 great campuses became more and more tyrannical, each more astonishing than the last. It could be said that good and bad people were mixed together. The scene was a bit noisy and chaotic. There were already people fighting, and there were even screams of agony. The fight had begun. Chu Yang took out his waist tag and looked at the number on it, 1,000. It's only 1,000 points. How long will it take? How many people will I bully? It's too expensive to start now. If I'm not careful, I'll become a target for everyone. He thought for a moment and immediately gave up on the idea of fighting here. If he wanted to fight, he had to fight with the ability. That way, he would have more points. He defined himself as the big fish, the super big one. Chu Hang, what's our strategy now? The parrot asked. I feel that many consciousnesses have already locked onto us. If the parrot could feel it, then so could he. Chu Yang couldn't help but snort coldly. Everyone from the 6 great campuses was paying attention to him. It seems that the 6 great campuses all suspect that I'm Eastern Wilderness 002. Then, he frowned. Logically speaking, this shouldn't be the case. I'm afraid I'm in a lot of trouble. You guys do as you see fit. Chu Yang thought for a moment and said, you can follow me or act on your own. In the Eastern Wilderness, the 3 of us have decided to act on our own in the 6 Great Campuses Alliance Tournament. Kui Xin Hu, Hao Haodong, and Oyu Lajing didn't want to be under Chu Yang's protection. Chu Yang didn't immediately agree. He said, are you prepared? The 3 of them were from the Eastern Wilderness. In the 6 Great Campuses Alliance Tournament, they would easily be targeted. Chu Yang naturally didn't feel at ease. Hee. Hao Haodong immediately laughed. Eastern Wilderness. I've been with you for so long. If I haven't learned anything, then I can just slit my own throat. If anyone thinks that we're easy to bully, we'll teach them a lesson. Eastern Wilderness. Don't worry. We're all on the verge of a breakthrough. If that fool comes looking for us, they'll get a taste of the lightning tribulation. Kui Xin Hu was the last to speak. Chu Yang confirmed that this was indeed the case and immediately nodded. You have to be careful. Once you are separated, I may not be able to take care of you. The Eastern Wilderness, we understand. The 3 of them flew away at once, and disappeared into the mountain range in an instant. I'll act alone. Following Chu Hang, there was never a chance for me to show off. Chu Hang's shadow area is too big. Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang also left together. In the end, only Chu Yang, Shangguan Lan, the parrot, Shangguan Mai, and Hong Neo were left. Shangguan Lan didn't plan to leave. During this period of time, she had spent too little time with Chu Yang, so she didn't plan to leave this time. Chapter 1845. Shangguan Lan just rolled her eyes at Chu Yang, but she was looking forward to joining hands with Chu Yang. At this time, Chu Yang also began to look around. He immediately saw many nervous people and people who were extremely vigilant. He also saw many taut faces. Many people already couldn't wait to stare at those who were relatively weaker. They rubbed their fists and were eager to give it a try. There were all kinds of greedy gazes everywhere. It was as if everyone had become a demon released from hell after arriving here. They no longer had any scruples. The surrounding atmosphere was very oppressive, and there were even some who were ready to fight. However, even if a conflict broke out here, it would definitely not be the most intense. At most, it could only be regarded as a small fight. The most intense time had not come yet. Huff. Chu Yang exhaled a long breath of air. Then, he took in a deep breath. The air that entered his nose seemed to have the smell of blood at this moment. It even turned red. Scenes of killing could not help but appear in his mind. After that, his black eyes suddenly became fierce, and the aura on his body became incomparably austere. He said to himself in his heart, "Come on, let me see how amazing this joint competition is. How will the 6 great academies target me?" The killing intent in his heart was fierce. Such a change shocked Shangguan Lan, Shangguan Mai, and Hong Neo. At this moment, Chu Yang was completely different from his usual cheerful appearance. It was as if a divine weapon had been unsheathed, and his whole body was full of sharp aura. Shangguan Lan's beautiful eyes looked at Chu Yang's side profile. After a little surprise, she calmed down. In her opinion, this might be the real Chu Yang. The depression and pressure that had accumulated in his heart were finally torn off at this time. Maybe, I don't understand the pressure on Brother Yang. Shangguanlan knew very well that Chu Yang not only carried the hope of the entire eastern wilderness, but also carried all kinds of criticism and hostility because of her. However, when had she ever seen Chu Yang complain? When had she ever seen him feel discouraged? There was no need to talk about fear. To her, Chu Yang only gave her a smile, only joy, and only hope. He would never let her feel the slightest bit of sorrow or pessimism. When Shangguanlan thought of this, when she looked at Chu Yang again, her beautiful eyes couldn't help but be filled with infinite tenderness. Even if she thought of Chu Yang's indecent appearance in the past, shameless, unrestrained, and messing around, she definitely wouldn't think anything of it. After all, as a person, there was bound to be pressure. If he didn't vent, how could it be possible? The only difference was that Chu Yang's way of venting his stress was different from others. Even if he felt bitter in his heart, he would definitely release it with a smile. Lan, let's go take a look at the scenery first. Yes. Shangguanlan nodded, and Chu Yang was about to take a step forward. But at this moment, with a whoosh, something flew towards him. He raised his hand and scooped it up, and caught it. It was an arm. In an instant, Chu Yang's pupils shrank. This arm belonged to a man, and he looked a little familiar. Who could it be? As soon as the question appeared in his mind, a voice immediately drilled into his ears. Wild dog, take a look. Do you recognize it? Someone asked me to bring you a message. When you see this arm, who do you think of? This arm belonged to someone he knew, and he was more familiar with it. Buzz. Suddenly, Chu Yang's mind exploded. Big Brother. Chapter 1846. Has Big Brother returned to the East Continent from the Eastern Wilderness? They already know about my relationship with Big Brother. In an instant, too many questions popped up in Chu Yang's mind. One of the questions he had to answer was whether or not the other party had confirmed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. If the other party had confirmed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002, then there was no need to test him anymore. This was a threat, using Big Brother Chu Fei to blackmail him into doing certain things, such as seizing the divine fruit of doppelganger or obtaining the sacred embryo. If the other party had not confirmed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002, then this was a test. The moment he gave himself away, the other party would immediately see through him. Chu Yang could not confirm which was the case. The only thing he could confirm was that he had already lost, completely lost. He could not afford to gamble. Big Brother's life was more important than anything else. As for the problem and how he had been exposed, there was only one place, the barren village. If Big Brother entered the East Continent, he would definitely enter the barren village. Many people in the barren village knew his identity, so the barren village was the only point of contact. I wonder what's the situation in the barren village now? Chu Yang was extremely worried, but he calmed himself down. He let out a long breath of turbid air and sensed the source of the voice, but he could not find the other party. Ghosts and monsters, shameful things. He was secretly angry, but there was nothing he could do. The other party was really careful, not giving him a chance at all. Even if he wanted to and had the strength, he could not use it. It was very frustrating. How is it? Is it enough? The voice came out again, making Chu Yang, who was waiting, happy. However, he still couldn't find the shadow of the other party. Moreover, this time, the other party had said it publicly, which made many people surprised. It's enough. This is indeed my Big Brother's arm. Chu Yang had to admit that his intuition couldn't be wrong. His divine sense had clearly sensed that kind of bloodline in his arm. It came from the same source as his own bloodline. Therefore, he was extremely sure that this was his elder brother's arm. Whoosh. In an instant, everyone couldn't help but look at Chu Yang. Shangguanlan's delicate body trembled, and she instantly understood everything. Her heart thumped. Brother Yang's eldest brother was caught, and his arm was cut off. Gong Sun Long. She immediately thought of Gong Sun Long. The first time, when Chu Yang's elder brother, Chu Fei's arm was chopped off by Gong Sun Long, it was she who saved Chufei's life. This time, it was the same situation again. She naturally thought of Gong Sun Long at the first moment, but after thinking about it, she was not sure. Gong Sun Long doesn't know the relationship between Big Brother Yang and Big Brother. However, it was also possible. If Gong Sun Long investigated Chu Yang, it was not impossible for him to find out. Therefore, Shangguan Lan couldn't be sure. The only thing she was sure of was that Chu Yang was about to explode. His elder brother had an arm chopped off before, and this time, another arm was chopped off. One could imagine how he felt. So, you admit that you are Eastern Wilderness 002? Chu Yang was delighted when he heard this. It seemed that the other party was not sure that he was Eastern Wilderness 002 at all. However, this kind of joy disappeared in a flash. Maybe the other party was deliberately teasing him, or maybe the other party deliberately made him think so that he would react according to the other party's set and do what the other party wanted. Fortunately, he had always called himself Eastern Wilderness 002, and now he admitted it again. Whether it was true or not, it was still up to people to guess. I am Eastern Wilderness 002. Chapter 1847. Boom. When everyone from the 6 great academies heard this, there was an uproar. Countless gazes were focused on Chu Yang. Everyone knew what Eastern Wilderness 002 had done in the 7 Wheels Demon region. He ranked on the Divine Stele, suppressed the East Continent, killed Bei Xing and Li Shengsan, humiliated the heads of the 6 great academies with the help of the Thunder Tribulation, and even claimed to be the descendant of the supreme figure in the 7 Wheels Demon region. Everyone in the East Continent knew who Eastern Wilderness 002 was, and who didn't want to know who Eastern Wilderness 002 was? Now, the answer seemed to be revealed at this moment. Everyone from the Sky Academy knew Chu Yang and heard him claim to be Eastern Wilderness 002, so they soon calmed down after the surprise. However, many people from the other 5 great academies didn't know this. How could they be shocked when they heard it? His Eastern Wilderness 02? Eastern Wilderness 002 is a student of the Sky Academy. Eastern Wilderness 002 is only at the 9th level of the Soul Fusion realm. Is it possible? Many questions and doubts burst out in an instant. Pairs of eyes were looking up and down at Chu Yang, and there was no lack of top geniuses from the 6 great academies among them. Su Yiling from the Heaven Academy had a deep impression of Eastern Wilderness 002. At this moment, after hearing the news, her beautiful eyes fell on Chu Yang, as if she couldn't wait to pierce countless holes in Chu Yang with her eyes. Feng Po Long of the Heavenly Sword Academy was similar to Su Yiling. At that time, he had even sent a message to the Li family of the 7 Wheel City on behalf of East Wasteland 002. He had even agreed that if there was a chance, he would definitely compete with East Wasteland 002. However, the identity of Eastern Wilderness 002 was mysterious and there was no trace at all. Feng Porlong never expected that at the beginning of the 6 Great Academies Alliance competition, someone would admit that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. However, Feng Porlong's momentary shock and surprise soon disappeared. He had been paying attention to the news of Eastern Wilderness 002. There was an Eastern Wilderness person from the Sky Academy, who seemed to be called Chu Yang. He once claimed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002 and said something like "I am me" and different fireworks. Therefore, the person in front of him was very likely to be the so-called Chu Yang. Why was he so happy? However, although everything was like this, when he saw Chu Yang, everything was shaken again. He felt the same aura from Chu Yang, the same aura as East Wasteland 002. At the same time, Su Yiling also had the same feeling, but this feeling was born directly from them. Eastern Wilderness 002's realm wasn't high. When he was in the 7 Wheels Demon realm, he was only at the 8th level of the Spirit realm. According to the time, he should be at the 9th level of the Soul Fusion realm now. This is very reasonable. But I can't tell what's so great about him. If we can tell, then Eastern Wilderness 002 isn't Eastern Wilderness 002. I heard that he was trapped in the 7 Wheels Demon realm, right? That can be believed. Eastern Wilderness 002 clearly wants to deceive everyone. Whether Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002 or not, the discussion among the 5 great academies became even more intense. In just a moment, Chu Yang seemed to have become the center of the scene. It was as if he was surrounded by people. It was unknown how many people there were. If they were to cause a commotion, the consequences would be unpredictable. At the very least, the parrot's liver was already trembling. It secretly said in its heart, "Oh my God, Chu Hang has always done some heartless things. I'm afraid that he will suffer retribution. I'm afraid that this divine bird will also suffer." However, it didn't complain, nor did it curse Chu Yang. This was because if that person wasn't Chu Yang's elder brother, but it was very sure that Chu Yang would definitely do the same. As long as it was related to its safety, Chu Yang would definitely not hesitate. Chapter 1848. Chu Yang wasn't angry, happy, worried, or fearful. He was calm and indulgent. Any pessimistic or negative emotions wouldn't be of any use at this time. They wouldn't be able to save his elder brother. Instead, they would only make his elder brother die faster. His elder brother's life depended on his performance. His wisdom did not allow him to have any trace of willfulness. "How can you prove that you are Eastern Wilderness 002? The voice came out again. It seemed that no one could be sure that Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002, but Chu Yang would never be confused by the voice and think so. "I am who I am. How can I prove it?" Chu Yang smiled and said, "As I said before, you forced me to show you that I am who I am." What does he mean? The people from the 5 academies were confused. Then they found that the people from the Sky Academy did not seem to have much reaction to this at all. They were not surprised at all. Most of them were watching the fun and waiting to see a joke. Chu Yang is unstoppable in the Sky Academy. He claimed that he was Eastern Wilderness 002 long ago. I also heard that he deliberately attracted attention to divert the pressure from Eastern Wilderness 002. I've heard about it too. I'm just me. I'm a different kind of firework. I have a deep impression of that sentence. Hearing the discussion of the bystanders, the people from the 5 great academies finally understood the reason. Then, they were shocked. Chu Yang's cultivation was not high, but he could do whatever he wanted in the Sky Academy and no one could control him. "So, you don't want your elder brother's life?" In the face of this voice, Chu Yang said calmly, "I have done as you said, haven't I? Humph. I asked you to prove that you are Eastern Wilderness 002. You must prove it. Otherwise, don't blame me for being ruthless. I will chop your elder brother and feed him to the dogs." Chu Yang's heart burned with anger, but he could only suppress it. He had no choice but to compromise. He had to prove that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. He was really aggrieved to the extreme, but he didn't dare to show any trace of willfulness. After thinking for a while, he said, "I'm good at threatening or killing others with the help of the Thunder Tribulation. Everyone in the Sky Academy knows this." Second, Chu Yang continued, "I'm also proficient in the art of the stars, and I'm also proficient in the secret technique of the Star Academy, the 7 Kneels of the Star Lord." As soon as he finished speaking, he flicked his finger. Immediately, there was a rumbling sound in the void. Suddenly, it darkened, and stars appeared. Then, a child appeared and kowtowed to a mountain in front of him. Rumble. That mountain immediately exploded, completely collapsing. Smoke and dust rushed into the sky, giant rocks tumbling down like waves, turning the sky and earth upside down. It was a horrifying scene. When everything calmed down, the mountain in front of them seemed to have been erased. A large gap had appeared in the continuous mountain range. The first move of the 7 Kneels of the Star-Lord, landslide. There were 7 moves in the 7 Kneels of the Star-Lord. The first kneel was landslide, the second kneel was sea withering, the third kneel was earth destroying, the fourth kneel was sky collapsing, the fifth kneel was moon falling, the fifth kneel was sun falling, and the 7th kneel was star falling. These 7 kneels would show the Star-Lord at different stages. In the first kneel, the one who knelt was a child, the one who knelt was a young Star-Lord, the one who knelt was a young Star-Lord, the one who knelt was a young Star-Lord, and the last one was the Star-Lord who had become the ruler of the starry sky. In an instant, Chu Yang performed all the 7 kneels of the Star Lord. In this short period of time, the Zhongtian mountain range, where the students of the 6 academies gathered, seemed to be doomsday. Loud noises and explosions rang out continuously. Endless starlight and endless majesty burst out. The 7 kneels of the Celestial Lord had only been executed once, but this place was immediately in a complete mess. The mountains, lakes, plants, beasts, and so on were all destroyed. Everything was destroyed, and the terrain was completely changed. It could be said to be extremely shocking. Chapter 1849. This should be fine, right? This was naturally Chu Yang's voice. After he spoke, everyone seemed to have come back to their senses. However, when many people looked at him again, they were shocked and could not help but feel respect for him. Shangguan Lan could naturally hear how much helplessness there was in this sentence. Based on Chu Yang's character, she did not even need to think to know how turbulent Chu Yang's anger and killing intent were. She also knew how difficult it was to control them. For a moment, the killing intent in her heart also spread endlessly. The parrot's pupils also shrank. It did not have time to fool around. It was afraid of death, but when it should not be afraid of death, it could also do it. Why is there no response? Chu Yang asked again. However, this was the only way. He was the meat on the chopping board. Celestial Lord 7 kneels. Other than the Stardow Academy, Eastern Wilderness 002 is not the only one who can use it. Am I right? Chu Yang's eyebrows were almost raised. However, after thinking for a moment, his heart skipped a beat. The other party indeed had a lot of knowledge. That's right, he was not the only one who knew the Celestial Lord 7 kneels. He had also taught it to someone else. To be precise, it was a child. That was his disciple, Wang Bushang. Could it be that even he is controlled by the other party? If that's the case, I'm afraid that the barren village, Chu Yang did not dare to think further. Perhaps he did not need to think further because the result was already out. However, even at this moment, his heart was bleeding. He had no choice but to compromise. He could not be willful at all. He said, 7 kneels of Starlord 7 kneels is the best proof that I will die. Eastern Wilderness 002. If you still think that this is not enough, just tell me what you want me to do. He was telling the truth. The Celestial Lord 7 kneels was indeed the best evidence to prove that he was Eastern Wilderness 002. If this was not enough, then there was no more reliable way. The voice did not respond for a long time. After an unknown period of time, it said, Eastern Wilderness 002 is really good. He has already wiped out all the evidence. Hearing this, he didn't have a better idea, and he couldn't confirm whether Chu Yang was Eastern Wilderness 002. Naturally, everyone understood what he meant. Chu Yang asked again, what are your conditions? Simple, hey. The voice laughed strangely. Give me the divine doppelganger fruit and the holy embryo in exchange for your big brother's life. Otherwise, we'll chop him up and feed him to the dogs. As soon as he finished speaking, the voice completely disappeared, and there was no way to capture it. Doppelganger divine fruit and sacred embryo? Is the other party from one of the 6 great academies? Chu Yang's heart was filled with hatred. This was only a guess, and there was no way to confirm it. It was even possible that the other party had intentionally led him on. Boom. The crowd was in an uproar. The other party's appetite was so big. Not only did he want to obtain the divine doppelganger fruit, but he also wanted to obtain the saint-level saint embryo. Not to mention whether Chu Yang was willing or not, even if he was willing, could he do it? It might be possible to obtain the divine doppelganger fruit, but with Chu Yang's current cultivation, how could he compete with those holy disciples for the saint-level saint embryo? A fool's dream was tantamount to a fantasy. Of course, more people understood that the other party was deliberately teasing Chu Yang, and wanted to force Chu Yang to his death. They could foresee that this so-called Chu Yang would be miserable. He would probably end up in a state where he could neither live nor die. In addition, many people, such as Gong Sunlong, Chen Burang, Long Xiaojun, Su Yiling, Feng Polong, and Li Chou, wanted to know more who was the other party. It was very likely that the sneaky person was hiding among them. If they were not careful, they would be plotted against by the other party, and even die in the other party's hands. Chapter 1850. Fu Chuyang once again let out a long sigh of relief. No matter what other people thought, this result wasn't the worst. After all, he still had a chance to catch his breath. And as long as he had a chance to catch his breath, he would have a chance to save himself. He was not afraid that the other party would have a request, but he was afraid that the other party would not have any request. Kuan, did you catch that little person just now? Chuyang asked the ice Kuan in his grotto heaven. Master, I didn't dare to act rashly. That little person just now was a saint. The ice Kuan explained, I don't know the other party's exact strength, so I didn't act rashly to avoid being discovered by the other party. A saint. Chuyang gasped in his heart, and his entire body turned cold. The other party had actually sent a saint. A saint could crush him to death with a raise of his hand. Why would they do this? In an instant, he could not figure it out at all. After all, the gap between him and a saint was too big. Therefore, it was too inconceivable that a saint would specifically deal with him. Could it be that the 6 great schools have joined forces and plan to wipe out all the forces in the eastern wilderness in the East continent? When such a thought burst out, Chuyang instantly felt as if he had fallen into an ice cave. This explanation seemed to be reasonable. The other party's main target was the Eastern Wilderness 002. Under the circumstances where they were not sure who the Eastern Wilderness 002 was, they temporarily restrained themselves. That was why the other party had sent a saint. If that's the case, then it's really dangerous. Chuyang only felt that a huge net was silently falling towards him. By the time he realized it, everything was probably too late. Kuan, please contact my uncle and tell him my worries. We must control the space-time passage. Also, ask him to help me contact Saint Peng. Chuyang began to respond. He was prepared for the worst. If it really did not work out, he would hide in the god's realm and plan the follow-up later. Therefore, he had even made arrangements and preparations for his escape. It was impossible to return to the Eastern Wilderness. He definitely could not return to the Eastern Wilderness in a sorry state and let his friends and family see him in such a sorry state. Another reason was that the Eastern Wilderness was too small. If he retreated, it would be very difficult for him to advance any further. Kuan, there is one more thing. Go to the barren village and help me take a look at the situation there. At the moment, everything was just a guess. In order to confirm whether his guess was correct, he had to do all kinds of confirmations and collect all kinds of information. Master, don't worry. They're just a bunch of small fries. They won't be able to do much. The ice Kuan left silently. At that moment, Chuyang realized that the only thing he could rely on was the ice Kuan. It was only at this moment that the benefits of hiding his strength began to show. Because of the existence of the ice Kuan, everything about him would definitely be outside of the enemy's calculations. However, in the end, it was because he was too weak. Otherwise, he wouldn't have fallen to such a state. This time, he didn't know how many times he had thirsted for strength. I can't just sit here and wait for death. Chuyang was ready to take action. Later, he would leave his avatar in the heavenly soul world to act as a front. His original body and other avatars would go and turn the world upside down. In this way, not only would his safety be guaranteed, but it would also play an unexpected role. It would cause a great deal of chaos and stir up the pool of water. Chuyang had all kinds of plans, but he did not immediately carry them out. Instead, he was making deductions and deliberations to confirm their feasibility. Just as he was deep in thought, he was interrupted by someone. The so-called Eastern Wilderness 002, I would like to see just how capable you are. Chapter 1851. Each of the 2 teams had about 10 people, and they seemed to have been formed for the 6 Academies Alliance competition. According to their uniforms, one team was from the Sky Sword Academy, and the other team was from the Divine Firmament Academy. The 2 leaders were tall and had no other distinctive features. One of them was at the 5th level of the Nirvana realm, while the other was at the 6th level. Among the rest, 5 or 6 were at the Nirvana realm, while the rest were at the Transcendence realm. What do you mean? Do you think I'm easy to bully? Chu Yang frowned. He didn't understand the real intention of these two teams. If these two pairs of people had only come to humiliate him, Chu Yang would definitely make them regret being human. Otherwise, with so many people from the 6 great academies, who wouldn't come to trample on him? At that time, he would be extremely annoyed. However, if these two teams were here to test his strength, it didn't make sense. Chen Burang had already been defeated by him in the Sky Academy. These small fries, although there were more of them, were useless. Oh, the famous Eastern Wilderness 002 is actually scared. He's so scared that he can't even speak. Haha. Hihi, it seems that I, Hu Wangguang, am very impressive. I actually scared Eastern Wilderness 002 to the point that his liver is trembling. The two leaders were even more mocking and arrogant. The one from the Divine Firmament Academy called himself Hu Wangguang. The actions of Hu Wangguang and the people from the Sky Sword Academy immediately attracted countless people's attention. Many people also looked at them with interest. They were happy to see this. Many people also wanted to see how strong this so-called Chu Yang, who might be Eastern Wilderness 002, was. They wanted to see how strong Chu Yang was. The 7 kneels of the Star Lords were amazing, but after all, they were inanimate objects. This time was different. Idiot. Chen Burang immediately sneered. His realm was limited to the Nirvana realm, and he was still no match for Chu Yang. These two were nothing. Humph, idiot. Long Xiaojun also laughed coldly. It was useful to have more people. Even if the 6 great academies attacked together now, it would be useless. If they angered that guy, once the lightning tribulation was triggered, they would all die in droves. Just wait and see. If the Heavenly Sword Academy and the Divine Firmament Academy don't admit defeat, I'll show you how dogshit should be eaten. How dare they play around like that? Wait till Shameless Chu gets mad. I'll wait and see how they'll cry. Ridiculous. What kind of person is Shameless Chu? Even if he isn't Eastern Wilderness 002, he's definitely not someone these small fries can provoke. The people of the Sky Academy were also full of disdain for him. It would have been fine if he was more powerful, but he was so blind to pick a fight. This was tantamount to saying that the Sky Court was not capable enough to deal with Chu Yang, which was a slap to the face of the Sky Court. Therefore, how could they remind these people? When these people found out about Shameless Chu's brutality, they realized that they could be miserable many times over even if they only made one mistake. No, Brother Hu, in my opinion, Eastern Wilderness 002 is angry, completely angry. The person from the Heavenly Sword Academy suddenly made an exaggerated expression. Brother Hu, I'm so scared. How dare you do this? The eyes of the people of the Sky Academy almost popped out. What the hell? Who did you offend? How could you do such a brave thing today? Chu Yang's mentality at this moment was different from before. He didn't want to make a move, but he had no choice. The other party had already stepped on his head and pissed on him. If he didn't respond, he would be bullied by everyone. He wouldn't be safe even if he hid in a mouse hole. Chapter 1852. Chu Yang's gloomy expression suddenly changed into a smile, which made the hearts of the people from the Sky Academy thump. It's over. The two teams from the Heavenly Sword Academy and the Divine Firmament Academy have lost their chariots. Shameless Chu is angry. In their opinion, Shameless Chu was not at the point where he would be bullied by dogs. How dare someone act like this in front of Shameless Chu? It was simply showing off in front of an expert. Hu Wangguang. Chu Yang smiled even more wickedly. He glanced at Hu Wangguang and then looked at the leader of the Heavenly Sword Academy. What about you? Wild dog, what kind of tone are you talking to me in? The leader of the Heavenly Sword Academy immediately put on a gloomy face. No one dares to be so arrogant in front of Wang Feiming. Wang Feiming, right? Chu Yang ignored all the words and stretched out 5 fingers. I have roughly 5 packages now, the first package and the 5th package. Which one do you choose? Please order. Shameless Chu. This was the complete Shameless Chu. The people from the Sky Academy were very familiar with this kind of Chu Yang. Seeing Chu Yang let Wang Feiming order, they were already suppressing their laughter, because it would definitely be interesting later. You are really arrogant. Even if you are Eastern Wilderness 002, so what? Hu Wangguang was also angry and said coldly, "Today, if I don't beat you wild dog until you bark and kneel down and beg for mercy, I'll be considered a man in vain. You bastard, I'll also ask you to order." Chu Yang sneered in his heart. A man in vain? You've already said such words. If I don't satisfy you, I'll be very disloyal. Hu Wangguang, back off. Wang Feiming, get out of here. Two voices sounded out almost at the same time. They were Su Yiling from the Divine Firmament Academy and Feng Porlong from the Skysword Academy. The two of them were in the same position as Bei Chunxing and Li Shengsan. They had a lot of authority. Everyone was surprised. They never would have thought that these two people would come out to stop Hu Wangguang and Wang Feiming. Chu Yang was also a little surprised. He naturally remembered Su Yiling and Feng Porlong. These two were definitely not bad people, or rather, they were both upright people. Saintess, forgive me for not being able to comply. Sword Son, I didn't want to do this either, but I had to do what someone told me to do. Hu Wangguang and Wang Feiming both spoke, letting many people know that they were only following orders. This also caused Chu Yang to be puzzled. Who exactly is it? Wang Feiming, it seems that you want to die by my sword. Feng Polong's voice was very cold, and his eyes were even colder. Every word was like a sword, as if it could kill. However, Wang Feiming was not afraid. He smiled and said, "Sword Son, just do what you want. There will be someone who will exchange blows with you. Let's see if you dare." "Is that so?" Da. Feng Polong's authority was provoked again and again. He directly stepped forward. At this moment, the sound of a sword resounded through the sky. People seemed to see a divine sword flying through the sky. Suddenly, a person appeared in the sky and hovered above Feng Porlong. He was dressed in a purple robe, with a white face and white hands. There was not a trace of blood, as if he was an ice-cold corpse. At this moment, his white hands were holding the hilt of his sword, as if he could pull it out at any time. The sword also did not have any vitality. It was lifeless, and death chi lingered on it like fog. This death chi was not the death chi of the dead spirit realm, but the death chi of a living creature, or the death chi of a death god. This person had the cultivation of a half-saint. "Zong Jian, you want to stop me?" Feng Porlong said his name, and his pupils shrank. "I owe someone a favor, and I have to repay it no matter what." Zong Jian's pupils seemed to be fixed, or dead. He just looked at Feng Porlong without moving. "I am a holy disciple, and you have not reached the level of a holy disciple. You are not my opponent, understand?" Chapter 1853. Feng Polong's pupils were like swords, and his gaze was like a sword. The sharp aura on his body soared into the sky, and the sounds of his sword clanging continuously rang in everyone's ears. However, everything soon calmed down. Feng Porlong admitted that he was no match for Zong Jian, and he had no intention of making a move. However, he opened his mouth and said, "I hope that you understand what you're doing. The consequences of everything you've done today are very likely to be disastrous." When Zong Jian heard this, he could not help but look at Chu Yang. His pupils, which seemed to have died, were instantly frightened to the point that they seemed to have come back to life, and they suddenly shrank. "I owe someone a favor, and I need to return it. You might be paying it back with your life." Feng Porlong said word by word, "Is it worth it? Even if I have to pay it back with my life, I still have to pay it back." Zong Jian did not look at Chu Yang, but Chu Yang could clearly feel a wave of joy coming from his contradictory sword. Is he another sword genius like Xiao Qiuyu? Chu Yang was shocked. To be honest, Zong Jian and Xiao Qiuyu had a lot in common. They were cold, sharp, and did things with absolute precision. However, their hearts were so pure that it made one's hair stand on end. Of course, this was just a feeling that Chu Yang had. Suddenly, Zong Jian opened his mouth again and said, You're underestimating him too much. Feng Porlong was immediately stunned, and then he could not help but nod. You're right. I still don't know enough about his sword. I'm indeed inferior to you. He's using his sword to judge people. He's the same as Xiao Qiuyu. Chu Yang suddenly hated this kind of people. If they judged people based on their base, then so be it. But if they judged people based on their swordsmanship, then he was really unhappy. Obviously, Feng Porlong was also a sword genius like Xiao Qiuyu, but his sword Dao was far inferior to Xiao Qiuyu's. Feng Porlong retreated and stopped talking. Many people vaguely realized that the him that Feng Porlong and Zong Jian were talking about was Chu Yang, such as the people from the Sky Academy. However, there were also many people who didn't know who they were talking about, such as Wang Feiming and Hu Wenguang. Wild dog, don't hope anymore. No one can save you today. Hu Wenguang sneered again. Not bad. Wang Feiming sneered, wild dog, with your arrogance just now, it's useless even if you kneel and beg for mercy. Su Yiling didn't say anything else. She also didn't continue to stop Hu Wenguang's group from the Divine Firmament Academy. Chu Yang thought a lot, but he couldn't figure out any of them. It seemed that none of them were useful. Finally, he was too lazy to think about it. Let's do it first. At the same time, he also noticed that many people were looking at him with eager eyes. Many people also wanted to provoke him and trample on him, who might be the Eastern Wilderness 002, the famous shameless Chu in the Sky Academy. Perhaps this was human nature. To be able to trample a famous person under one's feet was definitely a great feeling. Little bitch, do you want to participate? Chu Yang was even angrier. He began to ignore Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming and said to the parrot, a divine bird's life should be spent like this. When he looks back on the past, he won't regret for wasting his time, nor will he be ashamed for doing nothing, nor will he feel guilty for living a vulgar life. In this way, when he dies, the divine bird can say, I have dedicated my entire life and all my energy to the most magnificent cause in the world to fight for a shameless cause. Chapter 1854. The 5 great academies hadn't adapted to such shamelessness. The parrot was suddenly stunned, but the students of the Sky Academy all burst into laughter after hearing this. The so-called most people sounded domineering, but in fact, they were very wretched, those in the Dharma characteristic realm. This damn bird had surrounded all the Dharma characteristic realm cultivators in Hu Wenguang's and Wang Feiming's teams, but it didn't provoke any Nirvana realm cultivators. One must have a little comprehension ability, otherwise, it would be difficult to understand, such as most of the people in the 5 great academies. You've grown, little bitch. Chu Yang was definitely not derogatory, but gratified. The parrot had also grown up, and it would definitely be able to resist in the future. That's for sure. The parrot then began to curse, following behind a pervert and being stimulated all day long. Do you think it's easy for me? Haha. The people of the Sky Academy burst into laughter when they saw the parrot's rare worried face. Fut. Shangguan Mai couldn't help laughing. This man and the bird were really good at tormenting each other. Lan Lan, stand aside and watch. Your husband is mighty and domineering. Hearing Chu Yang's words, Shangguan Lan said softly, Brother Goat, be careful. After that, Chu Yang stretched out his hand and began to divide the 2 pairs of people. Those in the Dharma characteristic realm, all go to that side. Little bitch has surrounded you. Chu Hang, can you be a little more artistic? The parrot immediately protested. They all say that the most people are in the group. Immediately, it became furious and roared at Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming's teams. Are you stupid? Can't you understand the bird's words? Haha. Many students of the Sky Academy almost went crazy with laughter. This damn bird really cared about its reputation. This made many people in the 5 great academies even more surprised. They didn't understand what was so funny, but they still felt strange. Go and deal with that damn bird. Wang Feiming said coldly. Yes. After all the Transcendence Realm cultivators had gone to cause trouble for the parrot, Wang Feiming said to Hu Wenguang, Brother Hu, it's just a wild dog. What do you think of me taking care of it alone? Brother Wang, do as you please. What's the point of fighting over a wild dog? Hu Wenguang and a few Nirvana stage S crossed their arms and watched the show. Chu Yang just smiled, and his smile was extremely mocking. Laugh. Wild dog, I want to see if you can still laugh in a moment. Boom. A torrential amount of qi rolled out like a tidal wave, creating a sound of crashing waves. At the same time, a bloody ray of light shot out and covered the entire sky. Shua. Wang Feiming held a scarlet blood sword in his hand. He became one with the sword and shot towards Chu Yang like a flying sword. That sword had an eerie sharpness. The scarlet sword energy emitted an extremely ear-piercing whistling sound. It was as if it had pierced a hole in the void, and the whistling sound of the wind pouring in was produced. His eyes were as cold as a viper's, and so was his sword. Swoosh. The sword stabbed out, and the sword shadow was like a rainbow. The torrential sword qi surged out and instantly turned into sword shadows all over the sky, covering Chu Yang's vital parts. The sword shadows were reflected in Chu Yang's pupils, and the sneer on his face became even more obvious. Suddenly, his face turned cold and he made a move. Kai. He just flicked his finger, and a white ray of sword light pierced out. It seemed that this ray of sword light was incomparable to the sword shadows all over the sky. However, as soon as this ray of sword light appeared, the sword shadows seemed to be dispelled by the light and disappeared in an instant. In an instant, only Wang Feiming's scarlet sword was left, and it stabbed towards Chu Yang alone. Chapter 1855. On the other side, Chu Yang's sword light had already stopped halfway. It was obvious that he had stopped attacking so that Wang Feiming could pull out his sword with all his strength. All of a sudden, Wang Feiming was like a child facing an adult. No matter how much power he exerted, it was useless. It was very ridiculous. Haha. The people of the Sky Academy laughed loudly, but they obviously restrained themselves a lot because shameless Chu would definitely cause trouble later, so they had to hold back a little. Otherwise, they would laugh so hard that they would pass out. Haha. Chu Yang also suddenly laughed. I'm still laughing, and I'm laughing even louder. I don't like it. Come and bite me. Haha. When the people of the Sky Academy heard such a familiar sentence again, they laughed even louder. Feng Porlong and Zong Jian were not surprised at all. It seemed to be normal. It would be abnormal if they didn't. Humph, is it fun to tease an idiot? It's really funny. Chen Burang was very disdainful of Chu Yang. Come on, he's being arrogant again. Long Xiaojun also shook his head. He was a half-saint, but he was still forced to compromise by Chu Yang. These small fries were nothing. It was not enough to describe them as vegetables. Wang Feiming's face turned red and hot. He didn't expect that he would be so embarrassed. The other party only used 2 fingers to make him helpless. You what? Are you still not satisfied? As Chu Yang spoke, the white sword light immediately moved. The cold light approached. Although it was just a sword light, Wang Feiming felt that its sharp qi could cut the sky open. His expression changed drastically, but it was too late. The sword light was too fast. He originally thought that he was going to die, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain on his forehead. As soon as he sensed it with his divine perception, he immediately saw that the sword light wrote on his forehead, "I'm a bastard." It was one thing to write, but the handwriting was crooked and ugly. This was not enough. This sword light also drew all kinds of tortoises on his face. Wang Feiming was so angry that he almost fainted. Brother Hu, do it. Wang Feiming finally came up with a countermeasure amidst his embarrassment and panic. Die for me. Actually, there was no need for Wang Feiming to speak at all. Hu Wenguang had already made a move long ago. Rumble. Thunder rumbled. Hu Wenguang had already circled behind Chu Yang and smashed out a fist. The lightning radiance on it illuminated the 9 heavens. As it flickered, it seemed to tear apart the void. Furthermore, it was extremely heavy. Hu Wenguang ruthlessly punched towards Chu Yang's back. Pa. Chu Yang didn't move. He didn't even turn his head. His left hand swung backward like a whip, hitting Hu Wenguang's fist. Then, he clenched his fist. Rumble. Crackle. When the lightning arcs jumped out of Chu Yang's 5 fingers, The lightning that Hu Wenguang burst out was like a flame being extinguished bit by bit. The lightning quickly faded away. The most obvious sound was the sound of the lightning. At first, it was still rumbling. But soon, it turned into crackling sounds. After that, there was no sound at all. In the end, no matter how much magic power Hu Wenguang used, the lightning couldn't burst out at all. How is it possible? How can his lightning technique be so profound? It made me a complete idiot in front of him. A trace of extreme fear burst out from the depths of Hu Wenguang's eyes and immediately appeared on his body. He wanted to retreat in panic. However, like Wang Feiming, no matter how strong he was, he couldn't pull his fist out. He had the same ending as Hu Wenguang. At this moment, Chu Yang turned his head and revealed a sinister smile. "I'm right here, waiting for you to kill me. Come and kill me quickly." The rest of the Nirvana realm martial artists were already close to Chu Yang, but they were scared stiff. Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming were scared out of their wits at this moment. Chu Yang spoke again. "Now, can I invite you to order?" Chapter 1856. Chu Yang was all smiles. However, that smile was as cold as the edge of a blade. It made Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming's scalps go numb. They finally faintly realized what kind of person they had provoked. The person in front of them was perhaps as terrifying as those people in the bottom of their heart. "His hands have been controlled. Why aren't you attacking? Why are you standing there like idiots? Waiting for death? If the two of us are killed, it will be your turn later." There was no other way. Since things had already come to this, Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming could only make a final struggle. When Hu Wenguang roared at the 5 Nirvana stage practitioners, Wang Feiming also roared. "Ha ha!" Everyone in the Sky Academy burst out laughing. Hu Wenguang's so-called control of Shameless Chu's hands was simply a big joke. It was just that Shameless Chu had started to play tricks. These two clowns thought too highly of themselves. Ha ha! However, there was nothing wrong with Wang Feiming's words. Shameless Chu had always been vengeful. It was too late for the 5 Nirvana realm martial artists to stop now. They could only fight desperately. Kill. Let's fight him. He's just one person. Even if he's extraordinary, what can he do? Yes, he's only at the 9th level of the Soul Fusion realm. It's already heaven-defying for him to cross the Transcendence and Nirvana realms to fight with us. But how many people can he deal with? He's already at his limit. He's just pretending to be tough. There's no need to be afraid of him. Rumble. Clang. 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 2 students from the Divine Firmament Academy cast thunder arts at the same time. One formed a thunder tiger, and the other formed a thunder dragon. The roars of the tiger and dragon were louder than the roars of thunder, shaking the heavens and the earth. The 3 students from the Sky Sword Academy released sharp and majestic sword chi that filled the sky. As the tips of their swords trembled, the rolling sword chi seemed to turn into rivers of swords. They gathered together and formed an even more vast river of swords, which rushed toward Chu Yang. Lightning, dragons, tigers, and a long river of sword chi formed into a monstrous might that covered the heavens and the earth. It was like 2 armies had converged, and it carried supreme divine might as it directly charged forward with the might of sweeping through everything. Everywhere it passed, it flattened and destroyed everything. Such a scene caused the scalps of the spectating Nirvana realm students to go numb. They were able to deal with one of them, but it was utterly impossible to deal with the joint attack of 5 Nirvana realm martial artists of the same cultivation. Hee hee. Chu Yang chuckled. His chuckle wasn't loud, but it seemed to drown out the thunderous roar. It was clearly transmitted into everyone's ears. It was extremely mocking. His hands still had no intention of letting go of Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming. If he wanted to win against these guys, he had to be happy, right? Especially now, he was very unhappy. He needed to vent. When the 2 enormous attacks were about to reach him, Chu Yang let out a long breath of turbid air. It was as if he had spat out all the anger and killing intent in his heart, forming a white mist. The white mist was so weak in front of the lightning, dragons, tigers, and majestic and fierce river of swords. It was like a wisp of white mist in the morning sun, and a few rays of sunlight could annihilate them. However, what was inconceivable was that this kind of white mist was actually blown away the moment it came into contact with the dragons, tigers, lightning, and mighty river of swords. Yes, blown away. It was simply blown away in an inconceivable manner. It was as if a gentle breeze had extinguished the flames of the 800-li mountain. It was simply unbelievable and stupefying. In an instant, the eyes of the 5 Nirvana Realm students bulged out. Their eyes were like dead fish, and their entire bodies were fixed in place like 2 human statues. They couldn't move at all, as if they were fixed in place by a great force. Chapter 1857. What an amazing thunder method. It's definitely not inferior to mine, and even far surpasses mine. Su Yiling's delicate body trembled, and her beautiful eyes were full of astonishment. It was not difficult for her to understand that this was the restraint of the thunder method rules. Chu Yang's thunder method rules were completely incomparable to the 2 students of the Divine Firmament Academy. It was like the difference between a dragon and an insect. Therefore, if the dragon only yawned, the insect's all-out attack would only be a joke. Feng Porlong and Zong Jian's hearts also trembled. They also noticed that Chu Yang's comprehension of the sword principle was profound and terrifying, far beyond their imagination. The pervasive sword qi disappeared in an instant, and the violent thunder was blown away like dust. Many people reacted and were secretly speechless. This Chu Yang is really terrifying. No wonder no one can control him in the Sky Academy despite his overwhelming power. He's only at the 9th level of the Soul Amalgamation Realm, but his comprehension of the rules is far beyond that of the Nirvana Realm. If we're deceived by his cultivation and look down on him, we won't even know how we're going to die. This Chu Yang may really be Eastern Wilderness 002. It seems that the joint competition of the 6 academies this time is completely different from the usual. Such a terrifying person has actually appeared. Except for the students of the Sky Academy, who were not very affected by this, the students of the other 5 academies deeply remembered Chu Yang's face at this moment. They remembered Chu Yang as a person. Their hearts were surging like stormy waves, and they could not calm down for a long time. I'll invite the 5 of you to order, too. Ha. Chu Yang laughed at the 5 people. Immediately, the students of the Sky Academy burst into laughter again. It's coming, the most exciting part will be played soon. The 5 people retreated in horror. They had never expected that the joint attack of the 5 people would be so weak. They were actually so weak. In front of the wild dog, they were as weak as porcelain dolls. Go. The 5 people were completely terrified. They directly left Hu Wangguang and Wang Feiming and fled in different directions. I'm asking you to order, not punishing you to run. Rumble. Chu Yang's mind stirred, and 2 streams of thunder and lightning power blasted into Hu Wangguang and Wang Feiming's bodies. Immediately, the 2 of them screamed miserably, and were thrown away by Chu Yang. They rolled on the ground in pain. However, after being struck by the lightning, the 2 of them were not charred black, and there was no lightning on their bodies. Only from their 7 orifices, black smoke came out, bringing with it the smell of burnt meat. Clearly, their insides were already charred on the outside and tender on the inside. Whoosh, whoosh. Chu Yang was like a flying divine sword. The void was like a piece of paper. As he flew, it seemed to be constantly being cut. The 5 Nirvana Realm martial artists didn't even have the chance to escape. They were all suppressed by him, and then controlled by the projectile lines and directly brought back. These 5 people swayed in the air like 5 fish that Chu Yang had bought from the fisherman. Bang! Chu Yang threw them together with Hu Wangguang and Wang Feiming, and said with a smile, "Now, can I invite you to order seriously? Chu Hang, you bastard, can't you leave some drama for this divine bird?" Good, this divine bird is also fighting to the death. The parrot's angry voice attracted everyone's attention, and they were immediately stunned. However, there was no fighting to the death. The damn bird was imitating a human, lying on its back in the air, and its 2 bird legs were crossed like a human's. It was extremely leisurely. On the other side, There were more than 10 students from the Divine Firmament Academy and the Skysword Academy opposite it. They were each fighting with a colorful version of themselves, and it was very lively. Such a situation shocked many people. Compared to Chu Yang's means, the means of this damned bird made them even more shocked. What kind of magical power is this? Chapter 1858. Waha. The parrot finally got the same treatment as Chu Yang. It immediately jumped up from its lying position. Its 2 wings were like human hands behind its back, and its 2 legs were like a bird. It started to stride forward like 5 or 6 people. It held its head high and said narcissistically, "This is me, a divine bird, a godly divine bird. All the birds in the world are bright, but I am me, a different kind of firework. Please remember this scene." It also sang the song that Chu Yang had once sung, "How lonely it is to be invincible. My loneliness, who can understand me? How empty it is to be invincible. My loneliness, endless loneliness." Ha ha. Bursts of laughter rang out instantly. Of course, it was the people of the Sky Academy, while the 5 academies were still in a daze and adapting to the situation. It definitely required a process of adaptation, or at least a process of speechlessness. After all, it was a parrot who claimed to be invincible but lonely, invincible but empty. Especially this parrot, its behavior was very funny at the moment. "I've waited for 1,000 years, I've waited for 1,000 years." The song rang out again, and in an instant, all eyes were fixed on Chu Yang. Ha ha. The people of the Sky Academy burst into laughter again. It began. Shameless Chu finally began to play tricks. Therefore, they all began to concentrate. After all, it was not easy to meet such a person, and they even felt a little nostalgic. The parrot was furious, but it could not change the fact that Chu Yang was still singing loudly with his orchid fingers raised. "I've waited for 1,000 years, I have no regret." Although Chu Yang's state of mind was not suitable for making jokes at the moment, he still did it. At this moment, he did not need to use a close-up lens to magnify the sorrow and worry in his heart, which would make him feel that everything was difficult. At some point, the state of mind was more important. Only when he was in the best state could he make the most correct and wisest judgment. Now, Chu Yang felt that he needed to laugh. Who was the one who said that invincibility would never change? Just for this one sentence, aha, even if my intestines are broken, I will not complain. The parrot finally understood that Chu Hang was saying that its invincibility would only come once in 1,000 years. It immediately jumped up and cursed, "Chu Hang, you bastard, you actually changed the lyrics of such a good song. Don't you have a conscience? This is so boring. Immediately change this divine bird back, or this divine bird will go crazy." Chu Yang obeyed and said to Shangguan Lan affectionately, "I have no regrets waiting for you for 1,000 years. Who was it that said, 'Love me will never change'? Just for this sentence, aha, even if my intestines are broken, I will not complain." The red bird on Shangguan Lan's shoulder immediately shouted, "Little sheep, sing Invincible for me." The parrot anxiously said, "Chu Hang, these lyrics are so affectionate. You must continue." At the request of the parrot and the red bird, Chu Yang easily switched between the two, which made the 2 birds stunned. It could be done like this. Shangguan Lan was not angry this time. Instead, her heart was full of tenderness. "Brother sheep, are you such a person? Even if you are worried about your big brother, do you still have to smile like this on your face?" Ha ha. This time, not only the people of the Sky Academy, but also the people of the 5 great academies were all laughing crazily. Even Su Yileng was convulsing with laughter. Feng Porlong also laughed involuntarily. Even Zong Jian, who looked like a dead person, unconsciously showed a smile on his pale face. Among the people present, there were many geniuses of the 6 great academies, and even many holy disciples. They were either laughing or looking very strange. To be exact, this was really a rare sight. Chapter 1859. Bang, bang, bang. As soon as Chu Yang finished, the parrot knocked down the dozen or so Transcendence Realm cultivators and threw them together with Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming. It flapped its wings and said, "Please order." Of course, Chu Yang also spoke. He and the parrot had a tacit understanding. Such tacit understanding made the crowd burst into laughter, especially the students of the Sky Academy. They were so happy that they began to make guesses. There are 5 packages. What do you think they are? I'm really curious. It's really too difficult to know the contents of the 5 packages. How can ordinary people imagine the imagination of Shameless Chew and that stupid bird? I guess the first package must be to strip them naked and hang them up to dry. How is this not strange and shocking? I want to protest. I want to see something new. Immediately, many people echoed and shouted, "Shameless Chew, we want to see something new, we want to see something new." Chu Yang hadn't started yet, but the students of the Sky Academy had already made such a fuss. The students of the 5 academies really found it incredible. It seemed that Shameless Chew was the public enemy, but why was the atmosphere so strange? Could it be that there was something magical in Chu Yang's package? Many people's curiosity had been aroused, and they were waiting to see how Chu Yang would torture them. They thought that Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming would be miserable, but few people sympathized with them. Whether they were stupid or not, Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming should never be the first to eat crab. After all, a person's name was like a tree's shadow. After all, Chu Yang's reputation was out there. He might even be Eastern Wasteland 002, whose might shook the entire Eastern continent. How could these two dare to be so arrogant in front of such a person? However, Su Yiling and Feng Polong couldn't laugh. After all, this was related to the Heaven Sword Academy and the Divine Firmament Academy. However, they couldn't say anything because Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming were too arrogant. They couldn't find a reason to plead for mercy. "Wild dog, what can you do to us?" According to the rules of the 6 academies combined tournament, no one is allowed to kill. "Do you dare to touch us?" "That's right. Other than stealing our points, what else can you do, wild dog?" Su Yiling and Feng Polong, who originally wanted to ask for help from Chu Yang, suddenly heard Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming's malicious words. They even recklessly provoked Chu Yang. They couldn't help but feel hatred and anger in their hearts. They gritted their teeth so hard that they almost broke. The two of them really did not understand. Were Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming really stupid, or were they pretending to be stupid? Did they really think that Chu Yang was easy to get along with? What about Bei Chunxing? What about Li Shengsan? These 2 people were strong enough in the 7 Wheels Demon region, but what happened in the end? Chu Yang had killed the 2 of them in front of the 6 great academies. In the end, he had even chased the dean of the 6 great academies away like a dog. There were rules in the 6 academies combined tournament, but could they be compared with the situation in the 7 Wheels Demon region at that time? How could such a trivial rule stump Chu Yang? How could Chu Yang put such a rule in his eyes? Rules were only for the weak. If Chu Yang was strong enough, the 6 great academies could only turn a blind eye. However, come on, wild dog. Wang Feiming pointed to his neck and continued to shout at Chu Yang, "Wild dog, aren't you very capable? Cut me here if you have the ability, haha." Hu Wenguang even laughed mockingly, "Wild dog, we are provoking you. What can you do? At worst, you can break our bones and break our tendons. After lying in bed for half a year, we will be a hero again. Why would we be afraid of you? Haha, there's a good show to watch." The students of the Sky Academy were even more overjoyed. This time, the show that we haven't seen before can be completed. Chapter 1860. Then a student from the Sky Academy said, "Hey, heroes, you are in the Nirvana realm. Hurry up and use the Nirvana flame." Yes, hurry up and use the Nirvana flame. Maybe you can turn the tables later." Exactly. You 2 extraordinary heroes, I admire your wisdom and backbone to the extreme. Use the flames of Nirvana and you'll surely be able to turn defeat into victory. These people from the Sky Academy were obviously waiting to watch the fun. The people from the 5 academies were confused and felt even weirder. Logically speaking, Chu Yang really didn't have much choice but to beat Hu Wenguang and Wang Feiming up. This was the limit. The rules of the joint competition between the 6 academies were there, and the patrol team had probably noticed this. However, The reaction of the people from the Sky Academy was obviously not good yet. Many people from the 5 academies even found that the female students from the Sky Academy had turned around inexplicably. On the other side, Chu Yang's peerless beauty had also left without a sound. What the hell? What is Chu Yang going to do? For a moment, the people from the 5 academies were very confused. Bang! 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 At this time, muffled sounds were heard again and again. When they noticed the lousy bird, it instantly transformed into a furious little bird as it madly attacked Hu Wenguang, Wang Feiming, and the others. Hu Wenguang and the others were beaten to the point that they could only lie on the ground and groan, and were completely unable to use nirvana flames. Haha, this damn bird is really clever. The people from the Sky Academy burst into laughter again. It's so clever. You have to see what kind of bird it is. The parrot was very proud and said proudly to the people from the Sky Academy, "That's for sure. I'm the most dazzling one today." The people from the Sky Academy laughed crazily. This damn bird was obviously afraid that Chu Hang would show his power again and make it dim. After all, this was the first time in 1,000 years that it had been waiting for such a show of power. Hey! The parrot began to show off and said to Hu Wenguang and others, "Since you are all silent, it's obvious that you have a big appetite. You must have ordered all 5 sets. As a benevolent divine bird, I will satisfy you." The members of the Sky Academy were satisfied with his words because the 5 sets were about to appear. However, they were a little worried about letting this lousy bird preside over the event. Ah! A miserable shriek could be heard as the parrot's magical power transformed into a dozen or so hands, which grabbed onto Hu Wenguang's hair and began to pull it out. In the blink of an eye, Hu Wenguang's bald head was covered with blood. Tease this divine bird again. How arrogant. Don't be arrogant in front of this divine bird. The parrot let loose a torrent of abuse, and clenched its claws into fists. The second set is here, and I'll return your beautiful fists. Bang bang bang. Hu Wenguang's mouth was crooked, his nose was broken, and his eyeballs popped out. His entire face was deformed and badly mangled. He howled miserably on the ground. At the side, Wang Feiming and the others felt their scalps go numb. This damned bird was too ruthless. Damned bird, kill me if you dare. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. Hu Wenguang threatened like a ferocious ghost. However, as soon as his voice came out, he was shocked to find that the people of the Sky Academy were all roaring at him. "Hu, your face is badly mangled, and so is your brain. Shut up. Idiot, shut up immediately. You're not provoking that damned bird. If you dare, shout at Chu Hang. Divine bird, calling divine bird. Your performance is not wonderful. We're not satisfied." Not to mention Hu Wenguang, even Wang Feiming and the others were stunned. They were the victims. Why didn't they get any sympathy? The members of the 5 academies were also dumbfounded. What's wrong with the Sky Academy? Are they crazy? Chapter 1861. Rip, rip, rip. In an instant, under the stunned gazes of many people from the 5 academies, Hu Wenguang turned into a white pig and was then hung up. In the end, everyone finally understood what the Sky Academy meant by stripping, pulling out, and hanging up to dry. It turned out that this was it. Ah ah ah. The woman's high-pitched scream also made them realize why the female students of the Sky Academy had just turned around. It turned out that this damn bird was a habitual offender and had always been so despicable. In this way, even if Hu Wenguang lay in bed for half a year, he would not be able to become a hero, but he could become a white pig and be remembered by people for a lifetime. He would be too ashamed to see others. Damn bird, please stop immediately. Divine bird, I beg you, can you let the professionals do it? How can the divine bird use such a good ingredient? Alright, the food you cook has to be edible, right? After hearing the voice of the Sky Academy, the people from the 5 academies immediately understood the mystery again. It turned out that Chu Yang was the professional. He was the ancestor, he was the most primitive evil. Oh, the parrot was very hurt. It directly used its magic power to strip Wang Feiming and the others and hung them up to dry. The Sky Academy was full of curses. Everything was really ruined by this damn bird. Little bitch, you have to do it step by step. You can't do it so fiercely all of a sudden. Scammer Chu, you shut up for this divine bird. Today is this divine bird's special day. If you dare to make a move, this divine bird will immediately fall out with you. We won't be brothers anymore. The parrot felt ashamed and became brave. It poked Hu Wangguang, Wang Feiming, and the others with its wings and ordered, you, and you. You said you're a tortoise. You said you're a tortoise. You said you're a dog. You said you're a tortoise, and a dog. There was no novelty at all. The people of the Sky Academy protested and shouted for someone else. In the midst of the noise, a roar came from not far away like thunder. Stop, hurry up and stop. How dare you? The inspection team is here. How dare you act rashly? You're guilty. A thunderous roar shook the crowd and silenced the clamor. Of course, everyone knew who the patrol team was. Immediately, everyone's gazes focused on the 6 people who were flying through the sky. They were flying toward them at high speed. The wind howled, and sonic booms rang out. In the blink of an eye, the 6 of them appeared in the field. It was as if 6 mountains had fallen, and they immediately suppressed everything. The 6 of them were all 56 years old. They were all dressed differently and had the unique symbol of the 6 great academies on them. The Sky Academy, Divine Firmament Academy, Sky Sword Academy, Sky Demon Academy, Star Academy, and Myriad Academy all had one member of the patrol team. This was to ensure the fairness of the patrol team. All 6 of them were at least at the Death Spirit realm, with more of them being at the Life Spirit realm. The inspection team only targeted the students of the Inner Yard and the Elite Yard, not including the Holy Disciples. Therefore, such strength was enough. Chu Yang sized up these 6 old men. His eyes flickered incessantly. To most people, there was still a certain degree of fairness in front of the inspection team, but he probably didn't. At least, that was what he thought at the moment. As soon as the 6 old men saw Hu Wangguang, Wang Feiming, and the others, they immediately flared up. Like 6 awakened beasts, they burst out with great majesty, oppressing people to the point of suffocation. Chapter 1862. Sure enough. Chu Yang smiled in his heart. The 6 great academies are united. An old man also said angrily, it's normal to have a fight, but how can you humiliate people to such an extent? This old man was from the Heaven Sword Academy. His words were reasonable, but Chu Yang also had his own reasons. If they regarded him as a fellow disciple, did he need to do that? Or, would such a thing happen? Hu Wangguang and Wang Feiming knew that he might be the Eastern Wilderness 002, but they still dared to clamor and humiliate him. If he didn't make an example of them, how many people would come to make trouble for him? He didn't want to do that, but he had to. Chu Yang didn't say anything. He looked down and waited to see how they would deal with it. Brother Fang is right. The old man from the Sky Academy said. Chu Yang didn't know this person, but he heard the old man say, such behavior destroys the unity of the 6 great academies. It's absolutely intolerable. We must punish them severely. After hearing this, Chu Yang roughly knew the result. It's just the beginning, but they've already made such a big fuss. They must be severely punished to warn others. This can't be allowed to continue. There must be a limit to the fight. The rest of the old men also expressed their attitudes. Chu Yang listened to everything, and could only chuckle in response. Without knowing what had happened, the 6 people directly made a judgment. As for the so-called this can't be allowed to continue and there must be a limit to the fight, he despised them even more. The 6 great academies had always followed the law of the jungle, which was vividly reflected in the various tests of the Sky Academy. Therefore, he was sure that if it was not him, but another person, the result would definitely not be like this. But you. In an instant, 6 pairs of sharp eyes looked over with incomparable sharpness. They were like 10 divine swords piercing straight towards Chu Yang. Boundless oppressive aura, like mountains, like seas, like abysses, also pressed down together. In an instant, it was as if 6 heavens were pressing down on him. Rumble. The void rumbled as if it had turned into a vast ocean. The void surged like seawater. The parrot couldn't withstand the pressure, and leaned toward Chu Yang. Perhaps Chu Yang was the only one who could remain unaffected by such pressure. If it was anyone else at the 9th level of the soul amalgamation realm, they would have already knelt on the ground, shivering and sweating profusely. They might have even been crushed to death by the pressure. His body glowed with a radiant light. It seemed as if a barrier had formed around the parrot, so that it wouldn't be affected in the slightest. In the Legion of Gods, Chu Yang's fleshly body had reached godly ascension, which meant that the parrot's divine ability hadn't had much of an effect on him. How could the pressure of a life and death expert possibly do anything to him? In addition, his psyche had also condensed into a spiritual godhead. Perhaps only the pressure of a saint could threaten him. Hee. Chu Yang chuckled again. When his laughter entered the ears of many people, they were all shocked. At this time, this Chu Yang could still laugh. How dare you? What are you laughing at? How dare you be so arrogant in front of us? It seems that we can't spare you. The 6 old men were not only shocked, but also furious. Their voices became even sharper. Every word was like thunder. Every word was directed at Chu Yang's mind. They wanted to attack and crush Chu Yang's mind. Swish. Chapter 1863. Haha. Chu Yang's signature chuckle rang out once again. Many people's hearts almost skipped a beat. His guts were a bit too big, wasn't it? Chu Yang didn't wait for the 6 old men to make trouble again. Instead, he opened his mouth and said, I thought that I would be able to hear a sentence like what else do you have to say for yourself? Unfortunately, I don't even have such an honor. With just one sentence, everyone was violently shaken. Yes, even if he was a criminal, he would have a chance to explain himself if he was caught red-handed. How could he be like Chu Yang, who didn't even have a chance to explain himself? Chu Yang realized that the 6 old men in the inspection team didn't feel any shame because of his words. They didn't even have any emotional fluctuations. He was surprised, but he didn't want to think too much about it. He continued to mock them. I'm old. I'm talking about the 6 of you who are about to die. Can you not be so anxious and calm down? His words were really impolite. Wow. The crowd finally burst into an uproar. The inspection team was too much, but Chu Yang wasn't easy to deal with either. There were so many students in the 6 great academies. Which one of them dared to say such words? He's indeed a barbarian. He doesn't know the most basic etiquette. Bestial instincts exist. It's useless to talk to him. Only sticks are useful to beast. The inspection team spoke again, which shocked many people. How could an elder say such undignified words? Haha. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh loudly. The discrimination between the East Continent and the Eastern Wilderness was really deep. He thought the contempt of the East Continent was more or less the same. He exploded. He pointed his finger at his nose and said directly, Come on, 6 old dogs. Try to touch me. I'll teach you how to behave on behalf of your parents. It wasn't over yet. Speaking of which, your parents really neglected their duties. They actually let you 6 disgusting things out. It's one thing for you to do evil in the human world, but you actually specialize in making people vomit. They really deserved to die. I think they must have died very miserably. In the end, they have to bear the blame. How pitiful. Sigh, they're really wronged. They actually gave birth to you. You bloody weirdos. You. The 6 members of the inspection team were so angry that their faces turned green. They were already so old, yet they were still being insulted like this. Waha. The parrot stepped in at the right time. He laughed wildly. 6 old dogs, this divine bird really admires your wisdom and courage. You even dared to scold Chu Hang. Hee. Are you happy now? Damn it. Feathered beast, how dare you be so presumptuous? The 6 old men were fuming with anger. Their beards and eyebrows were like swords, as if they had already been unsheathed. Their gazes were extremely fierce, as if they wished they could eat the parrot alive on the spot. Their aged bodies were also trembling with anger. They no longer had the posture they had a moment ago, the dignified and mighty life and death saber, arrogant and overbearing. Oh hey, You're so polite. I'm so scared. As soon as the parrot finished, Chu Yang appeared. He was extremely sarcastic. Beast, do you really think we don't dare to kill you? Oh hey. The parrot screamed again. 6 old dogs, are you under the pressure of ghosts? Or did someone tie up your old hands and legs? Didn't Chu Hang say that you can try to touch him? You're so arrogant. Why don't you try to touch him? The man and the parrot didn't give the 6 old men any face. They didn't even need to talk about giving them a way out. They directly attacked them to death. Their words were ear-piercing and heart-wrenching. None of their words were without thorns. Chapter 1864. His courage is commendable, but his wisdom is limited. Many students of the Sky Academy didn't feel much about this scene, and they only felt contempt for the 6 old men. These 6 old men are probably tired of living too comfortably and want to vent their anger. They're cursing shameless Chu. He's a genius, a rare peerless genius. That's right. Of all the people to bicker with, they chose shameless Chu. I can only mourn for those 6 old men. They're cursing shameless Chu as a beast. I admire them, I really admire them. In shameless Chu's words, my respect for these 6 old men is endless like a torrential river, like the ups and downs of mountains, endless. Most of the people of the Sky Academy were sarcastic. It wasn't that they looked down on the 6 old men of the inspection team, but they were very stupid, naive, and innocent if they wanted to scare shameless Chu. When he was in the Sky Academy, shameless Chu even dared to confront the Sage Master, so why wouldn't he dare to provoke a mere inspection team? 6 old dogs, do it. Waiting is torturous. How long do you want me to wait? Hurry up and let me die. Chu Yang's sarcastic words directly embarrassed the 6 old men of the inspection team. They were so angry that their bones seemed to be shaking and cracking, but none of them dared to do anything. Because of the thunder tribulation, the arrogant little beast in front of them relied on the thunder tribulation. If they did anything, they would be doomed once the little beast triggered the thunder tribulation. Only when one reached the sage level could he avoid the thunder tribulation even if he was involved in others. However, even a sage would be punished by the thunder tribulation if he dared to attack someone who was going through the tribulation. None of the 6 old men of the inspection team had reached the sage level, so once they were involved in the little beast's thunder tribulation, the consequences were simply unimaginable. Let's go. The 6 old men didn't want to stay any longer and were about to leave. During the whole process, they seemed to be really here to be bullied. Chu Yang felt that something was wrong. Go, he said. Did I allow you to go? In an instant, the bodies of the 6 old men stiffened, and a buzzing sound rang out in everyone's mind. Even at this stage, Chu Yang still felt that it was not enough. It was really shocking. Who would have thought that Chu Yang would be so aggressive in the end? After the inspection team compromised, they couldn't even retreat unscathed. The 6 old men's faces turned red, and their eyes were filled with anger. They wanted to raise their hands and slap the little bastard to death, but they raised their hands and put them down again. They kept repeating that small action. What do you want? The sound was the sound of gnashing teeth, the sound of gnashing teeth. What do you want? Chu Yang directly retorted. He sneered in his heart and said, this marshal already has enough questions in his heart. After throwing such a big question at this marshal, you want to leave just like that? Is there such a simple thing in this world? What exactly do you want? If that's the case, you want me to continue thinking, right? Chu Yang's voice turned cold. Then, I'll give you a direct answer, kneel down. Boom. After everyone heard this, they immediately exploded. They couldn't believe that Chu Yang actually wanted the 6 old men of the inspection team to kneel down. The prestige of the inspection team had been completely lost because of Chu Yang's challenge. If they kneeled down again, what prestige would they have left? How could they convince the masses? Swoosh. Feng Porlong, Su Yiling, Zong Jian, and the rest, the geniuses of the 6 great academies, couldn't help but change their expressions. Chu Yang actually wanted to go to such a step. He wanted to go all out and completely fall out with the 6 great academies. Why did it have to be like this? Chapter 1865. Don't cross the line. You better stop before you go too far. The authority of the inspection team is not to be challenged. The 6 old men were also in disbelief. They never thought that this little bastard would not give them any face at all, and would even directly shed all pretenses of cordiality. He had completely put on a stance of not giving up until one of them was dead and the fish died in the net. This had greatly exceeded their expectations, and it was also completely beyond what they could bear. At their age, if they were forced to kneel, how could they have the face to live in this world? Hee. Chuyang only laughed. Who is crossing the line? Who should stop before they go too far? You've already achieved your goal, yet you still want to leave without any pain or itch. It was like someone came and hit Chuyang on the back of his head with a brick. When Chuyang was angry, they ran away. How could Chuyang not chase after them? I am crossing the line. I am not stopping before I go too far. I am challenging your authority. Chuyang glared at the 6 people. A cold light flashed in his eyes. He grinned and said in a rude and unreasonable manner, "What do you want?" His voice was very cold. It was as if this cold voice had frozen everything. The situation was completely frozen. No one knew what would happen in the next moment. Would the world turn upside down in the next moment? The 6 elders of the inspection team were caught between a rock and a hard place. They froze there, unable to advance or retreat. Their faces were hot like streaky pork that was being roasted on the fire. They were sizzling and seemed to be oozing oil. Very well. Chuyang laughed coldly again. I already know your choice. So, should I invite the little cuties of the Retribution Thunder to come out? 6 old dogs. Chuyang realized that he was really sharp and mean. He was like a mad dog, biting people crazily. No matter what, he would bite off a piece of meat. As a result, he felt that he was very weak and pathetic. He had fallen to this kind of person. However, when he took the 6 old dogs to be his enemies, all of that ceased to exist. Because there was a good saying, being kind to the enemy is being cruel to yourself. He had passed the test psychologically, but he had no choice but to reflect on himself. This was not the first time he had done something like this, and it would not be the last time either. In the future, such a scene might continue to play out. Poison, viciousness, and so on would probably seep deep into his bones, turning him into a complete scum. Chuyang saw the possibility of this happening to himself, but he couldn't do much about it. It was the world he lived in that made him gradually become extreme. He was just being pushed around, and he was just abiding by the law of survival of the fittest. Everything had nothing to do with him. However, despite all these reasons, he was unable to convince himself in the end. Perhaps, I am a mean person by nature. Chuyang bitterly smiled in his heart. I better not humiliate myself in the future. No matter what, I can't let myself look like a madman, an extremely dangerous person. As for the matter in front of him, what was done could not be undone. He could only pay attention to it in the future. Chuyang's change in thinking was naturally unknown to outsiders. When he calmed down slightly, he realized that when he forced the other party into a dead end, he also forced himself into a dead end. His elder brother was in the hands of an enemy, and he needed the divine doppelganger fruit and the holy embryo. At this moment, he had completely fallen out with the 6 great academies. It's too late. What's the point of saying anything? Once I pass this trial, I will definitely change my nature as a fighting rooster. Chapter 1866. Bang, bang, bang. This was the sound of the 6 members of the inspection team kneeling down. No one knew how they felt when they knelt down, and no one knew how they felt when they left. It was definitely not a good feeling. After all, they were people who were about to die of old age, and they had to kneel down to a young cub. It would be strange if they were in a good mood. No one could see the expressions of the 6 people at that time because when they knelt down, their heads were very, very low, so low that they seemed to have drilled into the earth's crust. They came with endless dignity, but in the end, they left with endless shame. They had experienced both extremes, and it could be said that they had experienced both ice and fire. That sour feeling was something that could not be described by those who had not experienced it before. People also felt that it was very strange. Then, they realized the reason for the strangeness: that guy called Chu Yang had still completely offended the 6 old men. In their lifetime, the biggest wish of these 6 people was to kill Chu Yang. Many people were convinced of this, and so was Chu Yang. His personality needed to be changed and polished, but this definitely did not prove that he cared. He cared about many things, but no matter what, these 6 old men were definitely not among the things he cared about. Chu Yang left with Shangguanlan and the parrot, leaving behind a clamor that overshadowed the 6 academies' joint competition and everything else. What else could be more shocking than what happened today? At least, not so far. Su Yiling's mood was very complicated. She felt that something big had happened, something very big, so big that it was unimaginable. She heard that a woman's intuition was more accurate than a man's. In the past, she liked her intuition very much, but now, she hated it very much. If such a premonition happened, she would not be able to bear it. Feng Porlong did not say anything, and Zong Jian seemed to be completely dead. Feng Porlong was sure that Chu Yang would definitely make a big move after this, and Zong Jian's perception of this was even clearer than Feng Porlong's. They all smelled the smell of blood. Storm's footsteps were getting closer and closer. They could already hear the sound of Storm's footsteps. After leaving the people's sight, Chu Yang had a smile on his face and was telling jokes. He wouldn't show an unhappy expression even if he was beaten to death. This made Shangguanlan speechless for a long time. His own elder brother had been captured and was very likely to be killed. A person who could still laugh was either heartless or heartless. However, Chu Yang didn't seem to be such a person. "Brother Goat, don't you think it's a little weird today?" Shangguanlan was right beside Chu Yang, very close to him. He could clearly smell the fragrance on her body, hear her breathing, and even hear her heart, so much so that he felt that her heart was very close to him. Chu Yang was still smiling. He nodded. Naturally, he knew that there was something strange going on today. Whether it was Hu Wengguang and Wang Feiming, or the patrol team, the former seemed to be looking for a beating, while the latter seemed to be looking for humiliation. How could it not be strange? "Brother Goat, Shangguanlan suddenly said, "Brother Goat, everything you've done today seems to be in line with some people's wishes." Chu Yang was still smiling at first, but all of a sudden, his mind buzzed. His mind went blank in an instant, and he seemed to be frozen. The group of people was flying at an extremely fast speed when Chu Yang suddenly stopped at this moment. Shangguanlan looked at Chu Yang's stunned expression and knew that she didn't need to say anything more because she knew that there was no need to say anything else. Chu Yang had completely understood. She also understood that men were very prideful. If she was smarter than her man, it would seem a little bad, even if her man was an unconventional person. Chapter 1867. Of course, she also believed that there were not that many fools in this world, so it was not normal for Chu Yang to meet fools. Chu Yang was already worthy of some people's research, and someone must have thoroughly studied Chu Yang's temperament and hobbies, just like now. Especially when Chu Yang was unprepared, it was even easier for him to be schemed against. At this moment, Chu Yang was very clear that he had been fooled, completely fooled. His every reaction should have been calculated by the other party. The things that he didn't think through before, he suddenly understood them all. Why did it have to be Hu Wengguang and Wang Feiming, these 2 small fries, who brought people to cause trouble? Why did the 6 people of the inspection team all look like 6 big fools? Chu Yang had thought it through. The other party had achieved their goal with the lowest cost. Fortunately, I haven't taken action yet. The only fortunate thing was that Chu Yang originally had a plan, but he had not had time to take action. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Therefore, this was a blessing in disguise. Otherwise, the enemy would have laughed and treated him as a complete fool. I can only wait for Kuan Kuan to come back and make plans. Chu Yang decided to do nothing for the time being. Doing nothing did not necessarily mean that he would not make mistakes, but at least he could make fewer mistakes. At this moment, he was in the dark. In a state where he did not understand anything, making fewer mistakes was an acceptable choice. After every incident was over, the follow-up would definitely follow. Before a new incident happened, there would always be some people who needed to understand the cause and vent the anger in their hearts. Han Zhong, after the inspection team had knelt down, had a lot of things that he did not understand, which made him very unhappy. Han Zhong was only 6 feet 6, which was definitely not considered tall, but he looked 6 feet 9, or even taller, because his body was well-groomed. His clothes might not be very gorgeous, but they were definitely the most fitting. His shoes were definitely not the best, but the shoes on his feet were definitely suitable for his feet. He thought that he was the best tailor and the best shoemaker. He was very good at this aspect, but how could he compare to him? This was what he had always been proud of. Perhaps he wasn't a qualified servant, but he was definitely the most loyal servant. He definitely lived up to the word loyal in his name. Han Zhong was 33 years old this year. There was not a trace of fat on his body. His body was as young as the young students of the 6 great academies. His body was still full of vitality. He liked married women the most. Yesterday, he had successfully made love with a noble lady. If he wanted to do it again today, it would definitely not be a problem. For a man like him at his age, this kind of thing seemed to be very easy. However, he was not in the mood today because his heart was filled with anger. At this moment, he was angrily going to meet a person, a bastard whose leg had been cut off and who had never eaten fish since he was 10 years old. That bastard was in the Middle Sky mountain range, in an extremely secluded valley. Han Zhong entered the canyon and saw a person playing chess. A person who was playing chess with himself. This person placed his chess pieces very softly, so gentle that there was not a trace of sound. I am very ugly, but I am very gentle. Such a sentence was definitely very suitable to describe the person in front of him. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.